Welcome back to the Fast Life Podcast. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. It's Monday. It's the last week, I believe, of April. Hopefully we'll be out of quarantine next week. But first, now is the time to support small businesses. Like my dude John Jessup and his shop in Stockton, California, which is a spot for in-house dyno tuning, parts, service, and bike sales. TeamDreamRides.com is a great place to dump some of that stimulus cash if you're lucky enough to get some, or take advantage of the 100 days same as cash financing on all products. All you need is a job, a bank account, and you're set. Don't forget to give John and the team a follow at DreamRidesJohn on Instagram. My dudes over there at Lexan Moto are growing fast and looking to onboard new dealers this year, 2020. Their headsets and charging solutions are ideal in any type of motorcycle shop, big or small. And Lexan has dealer plans to meet your needs with products that make your riding experience better and more on the way. Lexan offers very competitive dealer margins, fast shipping, and great customer service. Email them at sales@lexanmotorcycle.com and be sure to check them out on Facebook at Lexan Moto USA and Instagram at Lexan Moto. And if you just want to get yourself dialed in with a great headset or any other products on the Lexan website, check out and use Fast Life at checkout. 15% off your entire order. Check them out, guys. My dudes over there at Paint Huffer Metal Flake are continually killing the game with tons of great flakes, pearls, and other paint-related products. If you're stuck at home waiting or wanting to possibly pick up a trade or hobby, check out painthuffer.com to see the vast amount of custom paint-related products and get yourself stocked up with tape and other items needed in the custom paint process. And don't forget to use FastLife13 at checkout to save yourself 10% off, as well as give them a follow on Instagram under Paint Huffer Metal Flake. As I have said many times, ThunderMax is the upgrade ECM for your EFI-equipped Harley-Davidson. New exhaust, cams, throttle body, you name it, a ThunderMax tuner will dial in the necessary adjustments needed to keep your HD running cherry. Another advanced product from the T-Max camp is their iRide rear suspension system that auto-adjusts height. It's the best of performance and comfort in any air ride scenario. To get more info on these products and to see the other products available to enhance your HD experience, head on over to shoptmax.com and follow ThunderMax EFI on Instagram. Man, I was going to release this last night, but I had to recover. Had such a crazy, great time. I spent the majority of the time behind the camera, really trying to just polish those skills and, try to get good at photography, which, if you listen to this podcast, know that I'm nerding out on that shit pretty hardcore these days. So, think I got some cool stuff and definitely got some stuff to learn, from doing so. I want to thank everybody for coming out. It was a much needed breath of fresh air, breath of normality. There you go. Something like that. It just felt normal. It felt like we were back to just doing biker shit. And I know I saw so many people had a great time and just, I'm so thankful all you guys came out and had a good time, rambling here. So now it's time to get back to work and try to catch whatever the next event is going to be available to us, and it's looking like for us, it's going to be Sturgis. So, and probably a couple little short rides here and there. I don't know, man. That was fun. I want to get on ride now. I want to go stay somewhere. I want to get out with my boys again. It just wasn't enough. I want to thank Steve, the Michigan boys, the PA boys, the Florida boys, and everybody else from all over, pretty much this side of the Rockies, for coming out. And thank you guys. And you guys are what made this event great. I want to thank Adam Sandoval for, doing what he does and keeping us, keeping a place that we can go and kick it and have a good time available. So anyway, this podcast is with none other than Nick Henzo, who is the man behind FXR Bazaar. This podcast is about a year or two in the making. He's been a huge supporter of this podcast since the day it started, I believe. And really honored to have him on. This dude is the number one FXR nerd out there for sure. And he's got a lot of cool stuff coming on the way. So, I think you guys are going to enjoy all this talk about one of the best bikes ever made, the FXR. Here's Nick Henzo with FXR Bazaar. Let's do it.
Hey, guys. You ready to let the dogs out? Life.
What up?
What up, dude? How you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good.
You all set up?
Yeah.
You got the blur background thing on.
I don't know. I've never used Skype before, dude. So
Yeah, I'm learning as I go. I'm becoming a pro at it.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Let me know when you want to start or whatever.
It's recording, bro.
Oh shit. All right. Cool.
We go straight to the sex, man. No foreplay around here.
Yeah, I love it.
How's it going up there? What part of NorCal you in? I know you're close to Jessup and all them, but what, like Lodi? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm in between Lodi and Elk Grove, so in a town called Galt. So I grew up in the Bay Area and decided to buy a house out here just because couldn't afford it in the Bay Area.
Yeah, it's much cheaper in inland, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt. So
you're kind of more close to
Sacramento area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. How are you doing, man?
Dude, I'm good, man. I got to ride today. I know you went on a ride yesterday. How was that?
It actually didn't even happen because I was supposed to ride with my wife, and she was a little hungover, so that didn't even end up happening.
Yeah, dude. Here in Dallas this morning, it was pouring. It was hailing, and then literally about 3:00, it all cleared up, and then all the boys came to the shop, and I was like, "Fuck, I got to do a podcast later." But man, I just want to go ride, dude.
Yeah.
And so we went and we just did like a quick loop, went downtown, ordered some pizza, sat on a curb and ate it. You know what I mean? And it was a good time. So try not to get drunk before it though. So
yeah. During. Yeah. What do you got there? Is that Corona?
Yeah, I drink those Premiers, man.
Oh damn! Look at you, man. You're fancy.
They're low carb, so even though I drink so much of them that it negates the idea of being a low carb.
Right.
It's just a mess.
Yeah.
How's the bike running, man?
What's that?
How's the bike running? Still running strong? You got the R4, right?
Yeah, the R4. I got a starter problem, so I'm probably just gonna swap it out for a new starter. But yeah, she's doing good. She's super clean. And then I got this 91 convertible. It's a sport custom, and so it's a rare paint job. And it's got a full fairing on it, some convertible bags, and all paint matched and stuff. So yeah, I'm stoked on that one.
Is it still pretty? Like, I wanted to ask you. This might be a controversial thing to ask, but is the FXR scene still hot right now? Like from the outside? I mean, in
my eyes, it's hot.
Yeah, I mean, from like people that love it, but
yeah,
is it like? Is it down right
all
now?
I do, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, morning, noon, night. It's literally from the page to setting other stuff up, working on bikes, and then I'm working on a large project too. So I'm literally like deep in rabbit holes. It's wild.
Yeah, the page blew up though, man. How did the page start? I know we've had the FXR Dyna Trader on Instagram forever, but what was the ultimate catalyst that made FXR Bazaar happen? Yeah,
so I mean, obviously, nothing against FXR and Dyna Parts Trader. He does an awesome job and everything, but before FXR Bazaar, we'd look at the posts, and it'd be maybe 1 out of 20 posts was FXR related, right? And so I was talking with some buddies, FXR Mike, my buddy Lee, who he ended up running. He ran Dyna Dealer. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one, but so I was like, man, I'm tired of looking at all this Dyna stuff. Like, I just want FXR stuff. And so I talked to Lee. He was running Dyna Dealer. He's like, this is what I do. And so I just started it up one day, posted like 3 parts, and then from there it took off, man.
Yeah.
So,
but how much work has it become you? It's like a job now, right?
Yeah, it is, dude. It's a full-time job for sure. But at the same time, like, the way that my mind works is I'm all in on whatever it is that I'm into. Yeah. So I'm looking at bike stuff anyway. Now the FXR stuff just finds me.
True. Yeah.
So it works really well for me. I get DMs or tags or whatever, and then just post it up. Do
you ever keep any of the deals for yourself?
I do. Yeah. For sure. Like,
perks of the job.
Dude, I have a nice little stash of parts, and I mean, really, it's like the rare stuff that I've been looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into the like '90s, Arlen Ness stuff, or
Yeah.
PM original stuff and stuff. So that's that's pretty much what, like, when that stuff pops up and it's a decent deal, I'm like, hey, dude, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I did get my bike off of my own page. I posted it randomly. I think I was doing something in the middle of something. It got sent to me. I posted it, not even like looking at necessarily what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look back at the post. Someone sent it to me actually, like, hey, what is up with this paint job? And I look back at it and I'm like, whoa. I did, like, got more details about it,
Yeah.
got more pictures, all that stuff. And then it turns out that my convertible is actually one of 9 made in that color. So
that's cool.
Rare paint job. So I was like, you know what, I'll take it.
Yeah,
So
that's badass.
I had it shipped out from Pennsylvania. It took like, I don't know, 2 weeks. So yeah.
Yeah, the reason I was asking about like just the hotness of it right now, because I know that that's not like what real enthusiasts really give a shit about. You know what I mean? Whether it's hot or not. But for the sake of like just the people that, because our audience is FXR, baggers, everything, right? So
Yeah.
it just seems like I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm on this bagger now and I just haven't been like flooding my page with FXR shit lately, and I feel like I'm not seeing it more. But I don't know. I just feel like it's just kind of like I haven't seen anybody that's like building some off the wall shit right now. Like,
oh, dude, they're out there.
They are? Okay.
Yeah,
Then it's just my algorithm.
Sure. Yeah. Your feed might just be, all bagger stuff or whatever, and like, how all the algorithms work.
Exactly.
You like hashtag Bagger Nation or whatever, and then it just floods your feed with bagger stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Next thing you know, you're getting ads, for speakers or whatever. Big Brother listening to your conversations.
So what's up with have you heard any news about like the East Coast Jam? Is it still on schedule?
As far as I know, so I was on Facebook. The East Coast Jam is primarily off of Facebook, a lot of those groups and stuff like that. So last I saw, they were going to have it. I know some guys were having like T-shirts made and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it's like the status of it is up in the air, or if they have a plan or like a cutoff date. If we're still on lockdown from this date, then it's on or off. I'm not sure, honestly.
Yeah. And you guys, the West Coast FXR Jam is still in the books, ready to go, right?
Yeah. So as of right now, we haven't said cancellation or anything like that. And so yeah, it should be good, man. Last year was a blast.
Yeah.
A little bit about last year, in case your listeners don't like know what it is or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it came about. Dana Levine, one of the people that ran the FXR's California show, which was huge. Like Northern California, Southern California, people came from all over to come to this show, and it was a blast. They had drag race. They opened up the drag strip, and dudes would grudge match racing and stuff like that. So people came up from all over, and it was really a place to meet people that you knew from online, through the pages or Instagram or whatever. For a lot of us, that's the only time that we saw each other. You know what I mean? Southern California guys would come up to Northern California, and that's when we saw them. Saw their latest builds, stuff like that. And so that got shut down, I think, probably for political reasons, whatever. I know that they've been trying to keep that track open, so I'm not sure if that had something to do with it or if it was just political from the people running it. But at the Locked and Lodi show, Dana came up to me and John Jessup, we were standing there bullshitting, and she's like, hey, the show isn't going to happen. Mm-hmm. And we're like shocked, we're like, what? Like that's our our show, like that's what we look forward to. And so right then and there, I think it was, brought up that, hey, we need to have something, Mm-hmm. And we had talked about kind of a West Coast Jam prior to that, just because we always, see the pictures of pictures and hear the stories of the East Coast Jam, and we're like, they look like they're, having a blast. Yeah. So yeah, we're always envious of that. And then that's kind of when it started. So it's super simple, dude. Like Literally, it's no exponential planning or anything like that. It's literally, hey, this is the location. Here's the information for the hotel, and these are the dates that we're going to be there. Zero agenda. The only thing on a schedule is like a group photo.
That's cool. Yeah.
That's it, you know?
Dude,
So,
the pictures from last year, like that, I think I was talking about it when Jessup was here a couple months ago. Is it was insane. Like it looked like a fucking painting back there. You know what I mean?
yeah. And so I'm not sure if you've ridden around that area, but it's located in Gardnerville, Nevada. And, people are like, oh, that's not West Coast, this and that. But in reality, dude, like the Eastern Sierras, I mean, the Sierras in general are so fun to ride, dude.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's beautiful.
I agree.
Everything to do, any direction that you go in, and the riding is awesome. So it's based in Gardnerville, which is probably, I'd guess, like the closest spot. It's like a probably 45-minute ride to Tahoe. Same probably to Reno, and so we set it up there, and literally when we got there, guys were showing up, from all over the place.
Yeah.
As far as Mike rode from coast to coast last year.
Yeah, she
He's
was
based out of
wild.
Texas. Another dude, Jake, came from Canada, and a bunch of dudes from SoCal. So we get there, and everyone, meets each other, whatever, starts bullshitting. The next morning, guys start riding out, break off into their own little groups, like, hey, where are you guys going today? Oh, we're going to Tahoe. So big group rides out to Tahoe. Other guys, hang back, have breakfast, whatever.
Yeah.
And then came back through Virginia City, met up with TPJ.
Yeah.
Brian at TPJ. So he met us out there.
That dude come out there.
Randomly on the road. What's that?
Y'all let that dude come out there and hang out with all those cool bikes, and you let him bring his piece of shits out there?
Yeah, dude, those things are fucking amazing, dude.
Dude, riding out there, because he lives right over there in Reno now, and from his driveway right up the mountain. What's that mountain that's right there that you can ride to the peak of? Pretty much, it's like Mount Rose or something like that.
I have no idea.
Well,
honestly,
yeah.
I'm not sure right where he's at, but all that riding out there is amazing. So from the hotel that we're at, which is an awesome hotel, by the way, it's got gas station right there, full on like picnic tables, nice parking lot, looks over the lake, full bar, casino, a diner, and then if you're feeling fancy, they got a steakhouse downstairs too.
What's that? What's the place called again? The lodge or?
It is the Topaz Lodge. Yeah.
I'm a map nerd, so I'm like looking it up right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So and from there, if you zoom out, you'll see how close Tahoe is. So Tahoe's there. We rode out to Virginia City, and then we went south one day down to Bridgeport, hit up some hot springs.
Oh, that's cool.
And then we also did Ebbets Pass up to the ski resort up there, which is a super fun ride. I don't know if you've ever been on that, but the road is always like it's so smooth, nice turns, every kind of turn you could think of, sweepers, real tight.
I've only rode 50. I rode 50 in and out. I rode what is this one? 88 is the one that I like the most.
Yeah, so 88 and 89 is right there.
Yeah.
All of them are super fun.
Yeah, they're all amazing. Seriously.
Yeah. And so luckily we were there with some of the guys that, so Lee, I don't know if you know Lee Bender. Lee Bender's a good friend of mine.
I don't know if I know him, but I know of him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he knows the Eastern Sierras like the back of his hand. Like he's one of those guys that like he'll go out, take pictures, camp for a weekend, and he's on like the gnarliest like hiking trails and like he knows it all.
Yeah.
And so we're over there with him, and he's like, okay, here's the spots that we need to hit, and these are the roads how we get there. He's a former chopper dude and has rode all over the country. So
I think that's where I know him from is the chopper shit. Yeah, because he sounds familiar.
Yeah, so we took his word for it, and there was a bunch of other guys that were familiar with the Eastern Sierras, and so yeah, I basically just followed them around,
Yeah.
like yeah, it was really fun, dude. And then I mean, for me, nerding out on FXRs is like, dude, that's what I do, man. Like if
Yeah.
I'll sit there with a stock bike and sit there and look at it for I don't know, extended periods of time
Yeah.
and nerd out on, okay, this is a clean bike or it's not a clean bike or whatever it is, and then decipher, okay, what's original about it, what's not original, what's
Yeah.
what was changed out for newer, later stuff or custom, whatever. So that's just kind of how my mind works, man. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
before, so I got my first motorcycle in '04. So I graduated in 2004 from high school, and got a bike in '04, and have been riding ever since then.
Yeah.
Buy bikes, sell them, ride them, and then
What was the thing that made you want to get into the FXR thing though? Like what was the
well,
enticing?
dude, so back in the day, I grew up in the Bay Area, and all those dudes, like all my buddies had FXRs, right? And so I was always like, excuse me, I was always nerding out on them. Like, dude, those things are sick. And these dudes wheelie blocks. You know what I mean? Like back in '04,
Yeah.
like Jason pulling stunts. We used to ride with that dude all the time. His brother Tyler's an amazing painter and builder. Like it's just, I was around him. Guys are building choppers, building dynas, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, they all had FXRs, and I always wanted one, and at that time I couldn't afford one. I was working at a grocery store. And so I chose the financial route and couldn't get it on an FXR. And as soon as I got set in my career and got a steady paycheck, good paying job, that's the first thing I did. I bought a house and bought an FXR. So
That's cool.
and as soon as I got that, it's a '87 FXRP CHP. And so with an EK Elvin for you nerds out there. And so I got it next town over, like literally the next town, next little small town, dude, not even on the map. And so it was in a barn. This dude posted it up for, I think it was like 7,500. And I was like, ooh, that's steep,
Yeah.
it's sitting in a barn. Like, I don't know what it's like. I called him right away. I was like, hey man, I'm at work. I can come tomorrow and I'll check it out. And so he's like, okay, this is my price. And I was like, okay, I'm down. Like, if it is what it is, I'll buy it,
Yeah.
So I get there, and it hadn't ran in probably, I don't know, 8 years.
Damn.
And so come to find out that it was actually the CHP instructor's bike for the Sacramento division up here.
Yeah.
And the dude was like, it's got good juju, man. Like, no, he didn't give anyone a ticket. He just went and like taught the dudes at the academy or whatever. So, anyways, I think I got it for 6,400 just because he couldn't get it running and this and that. I was like, dude, I'm not paying 7,500 for a bike that doesn't run.
Yeah.
All the bags were there. The fairing was there.
Yeah. I mean,
all there.
Good shit though.
Yeah, and good shit. And so I ended up picking that up, and through the pages, like the first thing you do is like, okay, what do I have here, right? So I knew about FXRPs. I wasn't super familiar with the CHP version, and didn't even know that like they had their own VIN, right?
Yeah.
So because I mean on the pages, back then we were like, you'd see a FXRP and everyone would throw a CHP sticker on it or whatever, And so in my personality, nerding out, I started doing all this research on FXRPs, specifically like the CHP version, what was correct, what wasn't. And so in those rabbit holes and meeting people online and conversating, I start, getting into like all the specifics, what was the correct paint job? Oh, what kind of radio box did it have? Like all the stuff that a lot of people probably don't even care about.
Yeah. Yeah.
All that shit's probably getting thrown in the trash or, thrown on FXR Bazaar now or whatever, And so I started doing all this research. Then I start doing research on other models, right? And then I buy another FXR, and it just widens. And every time that I find a conflicting information, then you're in a tough spot, right? So I'll be on a page and someone will be like, oh, this model came with with a 39 millimeter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hold on. I thought all 1987s had 35 millimeter front ends, So now what? So
Yeah.
now we start looking, like, and this is
Find out
early
more
stages.
stuff.
I didn't. Yeah, the certain models in '87 came with a 39 millimeter, which were the FXLR and the FXR SP, so the sport version.
Yeah.
So it's all that little stuff, and so like literally, I've been nerding out researching
Yeah.
FXRs for years. And dude, big, like a big part of it is having friends to nerd out with. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. They're fucking amazing bikes, man. They really are. It's it's been so long since I've like had one on the road that I kind of have forgotten the feel of it. You know what I mean? The vibe.
Yeah.
And I have a '94 lowrider down there that I totally want to dive into, but I'm torn, man, because I'm kind of scared to like build it all out and do this stuff because I don't really want to go as far as I went with my gold FXR,
Uh-huh.
and I don't. But I know how I am, and I know when I start rolling in a project, it just turns into a snowball down a mountain. You know what I mean? And so
Totally.
I'm scared to even fucking do anything right now. So
Well, as you know, there's levels to all of it, right?
yeah,
I mean, for you as a custom, painter, builder,
yeah, whatever.
custom bike haver,
Yeah.
if you will, you're gonna take all those steps, like just habitually, just
Yeah.
because you're used to it. You're gonna get that thing and probably end up stripping it down to the frame because you want to paint it,
Yeah.
silver with a purple pinstripe.
Probably, yeah. It's definitely not purple in it if it's mine.
No, I'm just saying, like, that's your game, right? So there's different levels to all of it, dude.
Yeah.
You don't have to, there's a lot of guys that'll get a completely stock bike and be like, oh, I'm gonna run this thing. Well, then you run it and it's only got 8,000 original miles, let's say, and be like, oh, dude, this thing's like a brand new bike.
Yeah.
But if it was made in 1990, it's a 30-year-old bike. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now it's a 30-year-old bike. You got, gaskets and seals that have dried out and everything else. Like, you're going to have to tear that thing apart anyway, know?
Exactly. That's what's good about the bikes is, or for me at least, it's like even if you buy them and going back through them, it's not expensive to replace the charging system, to really give it a good maintenance one-over. It's like
totally.
grand, maybe $1,200, and all your replaceable items are pretty much refreshed. But what I'm torn with is that, like, I fell in love with some of the bikes, like the Goo on Instagram, like his FXR and his old lady's FXR.
Right.
Some of the dude, like the homies up there in Ventura, like just I'm into like a style that I don't think I'm capable of owning myself. You know what I mean?
And what would you say that style is? Like, so if you were to take that FXR that you have right now and build whatever you want out of it, what would it look like right now? Because I know that it changes day to day.
So when I first got the bike, I was in love with this FXR. It was a 90th anniversary lowrider, the one with the gray tins and the silver and gray. This dude, I think someone tagged me in the actual guy's post because I posted it on my gram, but he had like a quarter fairing. It was paint matched. He had just like thunder header, nice little dialed in setup. And I was like, dude, that right there, even though I have a 94, I'd do like, maybe I'll do a custom paint job with that style, but not matching 100%, and just be good with that. And that's kind of what I was wanting to do. I bought a quarter fairing for it. But I started looking at it and I'm like, well, man, I need to get rims. So do I go ahead and spend $800 or $600 on some 9 spokes, or do I just go ahead and buy some Lindals or some shit,
Yeah.
Then at that point, what I didn't do well. So when I did my gold FXR and even my bagger now, which I didn't really do much but bolt some parts onto that one, I ride these things so much that I can't really get my money back out of them. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
And so like you put so many miles, it's like when my gold FXR, when it was time for a motor rebuild, all the shit that needed to be fixed, I was pretty much gonna have to build the bike again. You know what I mean? And I just didn't have the interest in it,
Yeah,
and
so
I
there's
miss it
definitely
every day.
that cutoff. I mean, in reality, like the cutoff, like I am not in this for money. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, I have my job. My job pays me. This is my passion, dude. And it is like that for a lot of people. Now, obviously, you don't want to lose your ass on a motorcycle, right? But at the end of the day, if you're throwing, Lindals at it, if you're throwing, aluminum swing arms that are, $1,500 at it, like, there's no way that the next buyer is going to be like, ooh, you know what? Just because it has that aluminum swing arm, here's another extra $1,500. You know,
Yeah.
like I get it, and no doubt I appreciate it. You know,
Yeah.
for the guys that do build bikes like that. You know, there's definitely a time and a place, and you know, a lot of people are, you know, shop builders. You know, like
Yeah.
they could do that stuff. You know what I mean? Get it for, you know, a little under what they'd pay for it. You know, retail or whatever, and build a badass bike, and that's your business card. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But for me, like if I were to do that, I'm not selling that bike. If anything,
Yeah.
like I'll build that bike, change tins out, you know what I mean? Maybe throw a fairing on it or a windshield or whatever, just to make it different. But I mean, if you're spending that much money, and you know, and you're gonna end up building another FXR anyway,
Yeah.
either trade that with someone else, you know, something, a different style that you like or whatever. So
The other thing is like part of me wants to kind of like just kind of slap this one together, get it nice and clean, and sell it, because there's really nothing super special about a '94 lowrider to me. You know what I mean? It's not like,
yeah,
you know, like the real one I want to build that I'm not gonna sell is like the '82 Shovelhead I've been wanting forever, but I'm not ready for that bike. I'm not ready to dump the money. I'm not ready for that project, but
right,
or even, you know, I'm not ready for it. But eventually, I do want to do, since I've done the gold one, I want to build another one with what I've learned. You know what I mean? And
right,
apply that and see where I can take it, but with the financial backing that I had on the gold bike, meaning like
right.
I had the money to spend on it. You know what I mean?
And what would you say the biggest thing that you learned on the Gold FXR was?
Patience.
Patience.
Yeah,
And so,
because I built that bike in 3 months. From the moment we took it apart to the moment I was on the road riding to California was 3 months.
yeah,
You know, and so you see some of these guys' bikes that they're building, and that, you know, they take a year or two, and you know they're not. You know, anytime you take patience, whether it's paint jobs or building a bike, like the end product is better. You know what I mean?
oh,
And
totally. I
and
mean, there's
that's
guys out there that I know that have been building the same bike for, you know, let's say 2 years. But
yeah,
at the same time, you know, depending on their financial situation or whatever, like it's like for some of these guys, it's like building a ship. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like come home. I've never built a ship. I don't know the process or anything, but I would imagine it's really painstaking and like almost relaxing,
yeah,
right? So that FX come in, you know, the garage, and the FXR is sitting on the lift, and like, ooh, I got that part in.
yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, everything's meticulous, you know, like ARP bolts everywhere, you
yeah,
know, no shortcuts are taken, you
yeah.
know.
So one of the things that I like to look at is like, say if you go rip around, took like a little short trip on your FXR, and then you know you're gonna take this rip. Maybe it's a weekend ride. You're going somewhere, gonna find a hotel or camp somewhere. And then you come
Right,
home Monday, and on Monday you're stripping it down to build it. That kind of time behind the handlebars, just the details, and just thinking about the actual riding experience, and then going in to try to like rebuild it and customize it. You already know, like, okay, on the hand controls, I want something smaller. I want this. I want that. There's gaps here. I want to fill these gaps, and you know, just kind of take it to that level. Um, I don't know, man. Like, there's, you know, parts. We've gotten new parts in the industry now since last time that are new technology coming along, and you know, I
totally.
love those fucking Pops Garage swing arms, dude. Those things look
Yeah.
so fucking cool. And
Oh,
I would,
absolutely. I mean,
instead of like cheaping out and just saying, oh well, I can't afford that, I'll just get the one that's half the price. Then I would just take the time and save up for the shit I want, and then build it that way. You know?
yeah, and no doubt, like I'm super appreciative of all these dudes making parts. You
Yeah,
know, like if it weren't for guys making new parts, like then everyone would be after the shit that I want, which is like the, you know, the '90s Ness double
yeah,
tube swing arms. You know, like, but in reality, like all that stuff it keeps it relevant. You know
yeah,
what I mean? It keeps guys building really cool bikes. And dude, I appreciate everything from a stock '82 broke down crusty, you know, FXR
yeah,
to a, you know, John Jessup's, you know,
yeah,
high dollar build with every best part on it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and everything in between. Like that's just who I am. I can literally, you know, point out, you know, good stuff on all of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so with the '82, I think that's realistically the one that I want to do the most. But I think that if everything goes smooth this year, I think maybe next year I'll start on it. I've kind of trapped myself. I've gotten into two relationships now with people I want to do my frame. because
Okay.
I talked with Mike a lot about doing the frame because I want to do a D-rake one.
Uh-huh.
And then I've also talked to Brian from TPJ about doing it. So I'm kind of torn
Right.
between two really great friends of mine that I would love to collaborate with on a bike build. So, I don't know. I want to do something like that. And then I kind of want to do it to where, like I said, I don't want to sell this bike, but a bike that my friend also worked on for me. Like that sentimental value is what I'm kind of looking for. You know what I mean? Something
Totally.
that we're both kind of looking at and eye fucking it, trying to find out all the ways to build it out. And then I want to cherish that time with my homie while he was doing his thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That way it'll mean a little bit more.
Like, dude, just yesterday. So I'm waiting for some decals. One of the things that I do for the page is I get these decals made from this dude there. His name's Brian from Cycle Choice Decals, right? So they're like silver or gold leaf, high quality decals. And every, say, 1,000 followers that I get, I'll do a giveaway.
Yeah.
So I'll get anywhere from 10 to 12 of these decals. People that have hooked other people up in the past, with parts or what have you, or done something good for the community, I'll send them decals, whatever color they want.
Yeah.
And then the other ones are a giveaway, right? So, anyways, getting back to, I go out to the mailbox, and my mail lady's like, "Hey, you waiting for something?" Because she pulls up right behind me as I'm checking the mailbox. She's like, "Is this it?" And she pulls out this tube, literally a tube, right? I'm like, I didn't order anything that comes in a tube like that. That looks like blueprints or a picture or something. So grab it, come in the house, and I see that it's from Lee Bullock. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah, painter.
So painter does a lot of older paintings, or paintings on older bikes and stuff like that. Handheads.
A better description is he's an actual art painter. Like he's more of a traditional
correct
painter.
Yeah, on paper, watercolors or whatever he uses. And so I'm like, I know that name. Like, why do I have something coming from Lee Bullock? I open it up, and it's a picture of my FXR4 that the community put together. Like they hit up Lee Bullock and said, "Hey, we'd like to have this guy's bike painted for what he does in the community." Cool. Like,
I saw you post that, but man, that shit, I can't imagine that kind of shit would mean a lot to me, man.
Dude, I was floored. I was literally like, I don't want to sound, like a little bitch or anything, but I was like, dude, this like hits my heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
And so, I was super stoked on that. And just for like the sentimental value, like that bike's with me. You know what I mean? Like, not that I'd sell it anyway. It's a fucking cool bike. It's got low miles. It's a runner. Super comfortable. I've set it up how I like it. And
that's one you got from Mike, right?
What's that?
That's one you got from Mike? Or did
No. So this one I actually got from a different dude in Texas, and he on one of the pages said, "Hey, what do you guys think this FXR4 is worth?" And I was in the market, and he didn't post a picture or anything, and I messaged him right away. I was like, "Hey, I'm interested. Let me know what your price is. If it's in my range, then I'll jump on it."
Yeah.
So. He, people on Facebook or whatever chime in. It's around this price, whatever, and he sends me pictures, and it's clean, dude.
Yeah.
It's super clean, like the inner primary clean, like you could eat off of it, and that's the first part. Like, who really goes in there with a toothbrush and cleans the inner primary?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the one thing. That's the telltale sign that it's clean, and so. I ended up buying that, and yeah, dude, it's been a great bike. I had to do the stator, right, because it had low miles. I got it with, I think, 5,000 miles, 5,400 miles, and it was a 2,000, so it sat.
Yeah.
Redid the charging system, redid the front end, race tech.
Yeah.
With taller dampeners. It's got a windshield on it. Nothing too crazy. It's got lightning star wheels, which is like period correct, right? And so it won at the last FXRs of California. It won best stock bike.
Yeah.
Like best OG. So in reality, it's like it'll always be the reigning champ technically, because there's not going to be another FXRs of California.
Yeah. You're the forever champ of that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you know
But
the last year at the FXR show in Sturgis, man, it was pretty. It was there was some fucking amazing bikes out there, man. I was trying to, Jessup came out with his the 82 that he built with his daughter, which was 82, right? It was 82,
yeah, yep.
which was awesome. Just like the story behind it, plus the actual finished product were just amazing. You know what I mean?
Totally, man. And just being local to him,
Yeah,
like I got to see that thing. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
those wheels, I actually had those wheels. Those were like we did a little trade or whatever. I wasn't
yeah.
going to be able to make it work on the bike that I was working on. And I sold or made a deal with him. He got the wheels, and as soon as he put them on the bike, dude, I was like instant regret. I was like, damn, dude, like it looks so good.
Yeah.
So I went out and started hunting again, and I ended up finding some. So those are called the Aero XLs, and in 1990 they were released or whatever, manufactured, and so they also made an Aero wheel as well. So same style, spun aluminum, but the holes are smaller on the edge.
Oh.
And come to find out that Dave Perowitz actually worked with, I think it was Mitchell with PM or something like that. I'm not
Yeah.
sure the actual relationship back then, but Dave Perowitz actually helped design that wheel, like as a signature wheel, which is cool. So, but yeah, getting back to your 82, like both of those guys
Yeah.
are super knowledgeable and great fucking guys, dude.
Yeah.
Like, Mike is obviously a great friend, and Brian, I've chatted with him a little bit, and he's on the same level as me pertaining to not building. Like he's a master builder, but pertaining to like the nerding out stuff, like I started sharing some of the information that I had, like the nerd stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like all the little idiosyncrasies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, dude, back in this time, and he's all like, right now, I feel like he's working on that. What is it? A 1919? Like some super old bike.
Well, he's doing a Sportster right now for the V-Twin Visionary show, the tour.
Is that the U-shaped slung?
From what I saw online, it looked like it was a crazy frame he was building that kind of has that old board tracker style, is what it feels like. But
so
I don't know if that's but he's got a couple projects I think he's got going on right now.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And
so he was like completely nerding out, like on all of the Harley history and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
One of the things that just to like stroke him off a little bit right now, one of the things I really do love about Brian is a lot of really, really talented builders out there, they kind of lose the passion for riding. And I see that, and I'm not trying to knock them for it, but they just do, because it's very taxing mentally to work on bikes and then still have enough left over to look at them and want to go ride them, And,
totally.
And the way this dude rides bikes and the fact that he's so passionate about riding them as well as building them is like, it invigorates me to want to ride. It makes me feel like,
Right.
fuck, like I could build bikes too and do this, So it's very inspiring, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's the business model. You know what I mean? Like
I think it should be.
It's his business. He's the employee. He gets to free reign on. Dude, I don't feel like working on this bike right now, but I am super inspired on building this swing arm. You know what I mean? And he'll get fired up on a swing arm and build a swing arm.
From scratch too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, from scratch. And I think that like, number one, knowing how to ride and knowing, the style of bike that he wants and how it performs, is a huge advantage. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know many builders that, and not, like you said, not knocking anyone, but I just don't know if they, ride off-road, or if they, if they actually dip in corners, you know what I mean?
Or if they
if
actually,
it's like,
with the thing with a lot of people that, a lot of shops, and I'm kind of talking shit, but, friendly here. You see a lot of shops that are trying to promote products like, oh, we got these new shocks in, you guys should check them out. I'm like, how do they ride?
Yeah.
Like, you don't really see a lot of people, like big shops that are always online trying to sell shit. Like, you don't ever see these dudes riding bikes, and you're kind of got to wonder, like, like at some point, like, I know you guys love bikes, but do you still love bikes, or is this just a hustle now? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Oh, totally. And, it's I think it's different for everyone, dude,
Yeah.
because in reality, like some people, have families, are, stressed out about the business or whatever, like trying to, make their quotas with whoever, or get a bike, built and maybe overstep their capabilities of the shop or
Yeah.
whatever. Like I don't know any of those details. I don't run a shop. I never have, never even worked in a shop like
Yeah.
that. But I could see how people can definitely take in more work that they can do
Yeah.
and then have that stress and be like, oh, dude, I can't, like, I don't know if it's because they can't go ride because they have other work to do, or it's just that, like, or, they just don't like riding,
Well,
period, or what it is.
well, I think that, like, most shops have somewhat of a following, right? Not trying to say like, oh, these are my fucking subordinates or something, but just know, like, I know Jessup's got a bunch of dudes that if he said, hey, I'm going to ride today, people show up. They want to go fuck with
Oh,
this dude and ride with him, right? Or he had
absolutely. Yep.
whatever. A lot of shops, we all have that.
Yep.
And not going too far down a rabbit hole, but with everybody always talking about, like, how do you get the motorcycle community to kind of continue to bring in new riders and things like that? A lot of times it falls on the backs of people that run shops and build bikes and have a following to
Yep.
try to get people, you know what I mean? Even though it's not like a business thing that we all take on, like, oh, we also have to be influencers for the motorcycle world. But
Right.
if you want people to continue to have customers and you want your industry to grow, you have to give back in some kind of
Yeah.
form or fashion.
Yeah, and it's that community feel. And so, like, I feel like most of the guys, the shops that build FXRs are those guys. I feel like are potentially more riders than, let's say, and no offense, a big wheel bagger or something like
Yeah,
that. You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like, those guys are the guys who, throw SNS 111s in. Probably 3 of them a week in a shop,
Yeah.
right? They're doing suspension. They're doing, all the stuff that makes the bike handle, right? And so, opposed to, say big wheel baggers, like, dude, we got this, 30-inch wheel or whatever, and like, dude,
Well,
I,
think about it like this. I've said this before on my own personal, like, motivation to build a bike is, like, when you start kind of doing the bike, whether you're painting it or just throwing parts on it, while it's in the garage unrideable and you're just staring at that sexy motherfucker on a stand or a lift, that want to ride it, that fuck, I want to see what that suspension feels like. I want to see what those brakes feel like. I want to see how that new seat and bar position, if that's better. It's a riding thing. Like, everything you're doing to these bikes, performance bikes, period, FXRs to Dynas to the new Softails, it's an addition to make the riding experience better. Now, to not to knock them, but when you build a big wheel bagger, you shine the most in a parking lot when everybody can come see it and whatnot. So,
right.
in a sense, you're kind of building it to get attention, and the attention you're going to get the most, and you're going to be able to receive the attention, like, actually see the emotions coming out of people when they see the bike, like, wow, what is that? Or whatever
Right.
the case may be. You get that by sitting in a parking lot playing Nelly or some shit. You know what I mean? On
Right,
your stereo.
Yeah. Country grammar on repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't know. I feel like, and maybe it's because I'm from the Bay Area, from Northern California. Like, a lot of us ride, and like,
Yeah.
a lot of us have ridden hard. You know what I mean? And we're, whether you're riding in the city, wheeling up the steep hills, or through traffic, or whatever it may be. And not saying that dudes in other parts of the country don't do that, but I feel like all of these dudes around here, like, I grew up in, right around San Francisco, so
Yeah.
all those dudes, club bikes and stuff like that, it was literally, from at the poker run, for example, it was literally from stop 1 on the poker run to stop 2 was a fucking race.
Yeah.
Like, it, like, dudes would go ahead, shut down intersections in San Francisco, right? You've ridden in San Francisco, you know how busy it is, shutting down entire streets and racing. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it was. That's how, like, we grew up,
Well, what's really, for me, getting a chance to come up there and start painting bikes and making friends up there back in, like, 2014, You know, I got pulled up there because of big wheel bagger stuff, which is not really what NorCal is known for, but there was a
Right.
nice pocket. The thing is that you guys have the Delta there, right? And
Yeah.
all those dudes got boats and they got stereos, and then the big wheel bagger thing came and it was like an extension of the boats. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
there's
Big
lots
trucks,
of weed
big
money
trucks
up
with-
there.
Yeah.
So-
Chrome wheels on them, you know,
Yeah.
lifted, you know, some of them probably never gone off road or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, like.
Oh yeah, the truck
it's
game is
attention-
retarded up there.
Yeah, it's definitely, and there's people like that for sure, you know, everywhere. I
Yeah.
would say, you know, just kind of like status, have to like show off or whatever. But a lot of these dudes ride, man, and they ride fucking well, dude. Like
Yeah.
you get up into the hills, you know, these dudes at, you know, bike night, for example. I've met a lot of people, you know, just in this area. I'm pretty new from, you know, moving from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Been out here for about three years, and you ride with these dudes, and I'm like, okay, me being, you know, a semi cautious guy on
Yeah.
knowing how to ride and riding with new people,
Yeah.
I'd rather be in the back, right? Because I don't
sure.
want some fucking dude who doesn't know how to ride slamming into the back of me or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so first couple times I go out, I'm, you know, riding in the back, whatever, and I'm like, okay, these guys are moving, like, and they're controlled, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not just like, you know, balls to the wall and fucking hanging on every corner, you know, like it's controlled and these guys can ride. So yeah, a lot of these guys, they're really really skilled in the sense that like they know how to set up their bikes, they know, you know,
Yeah.
how to ride in general.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dude. I mean, you're kind of like the whole Central Valley there is just tucked between great riding on each side of it. I mean, you go, you know, let's say if you're going from fucking like Byron over there or like Antioch to like what is it, like Livermore? You got the Vasco Pass and a couple of mountains around Mount Diablo.
Yep,
Roads
totally.
fucking nice over there, and then the foothills. I've always loved foothills, man. So like
Yeah.
you get up in I can't remember the name, but like. I know if you're like in Stockton and you keep going east,
out
you'll
to,
start
Yosemite.
towards that. But there was a town. I had a customer. Me and my wife drove out there a couple years ago. We went to the bike night with Jessup, and a
Yeah.
customer that I painted his bagger a couple years prior hit me up and was like, "Hey, dude, me and my family are in Vegas for my daughter's cheerleading, but if you guys need a place to stay, the key's under the mat."
Yeah.
Dude gave me fucking access to his entire house
Yeah,
for a
totally.
night. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but it was in a little town just at the foothills. But a couple weeks prior, there was some big little deal where like cops were profiling bikes there or some shit, which I know that happens everywhere, so it doesn't narrow it down much. But
Yeah.
I can't really fucking think of it right off the top. But
No, it's all good, man.
but it's like not Angel Camp.
Angels Camp.
That's off of 99, isn't it? Or no, that's off 5, isn't it?
No, that's out there. So like Angels Camp, Murphy's,
Sonora, that's where it was.
Sonora.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all tucked in there for sure.
Yeah. So it's right off the one. It's not too far off the 120. So yeah, it's kind of right there where Yosemite, all of that shit is. I still haven't been to Yosemite.
Oh man, I growing up in the Bay Area, like, you know, everyone that I was around was like, "Oh, dude, Yosemite," and I just never got there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then as soon as I moved out here, I was like, I have no reason not to go.
Yeah.
And so I went, and dude, it is breathtaking.
It is.
Like, yeah, it's gnarly. It's huge. A huge, essentially, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a big valley. And then on the valley floor is the most beautiful, like, dude, waterfalls everywhere.
Yeah.
Grass, and the best way to see it is on a motorcycle. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
for
You're in it. And so we actually rode back from the West Coast Jam and made it a point to ride through Yosemite.
Yeah, it seems like for us either the pass from California to Nevada there taking 120 is always seems to be snowed over, so we can't pass through.
Right.
And then the other times it's so far out of the way because we'll be like in Monterey, and that's the closest we're going to be to Yosemite, and that's a fucking day's ride right there. You know?
Totally.
So it's
I would definitely put it on the list though, man. Yeah, I mean, Mike, this is the first time that he's, I think, been out to California, and it was a must. You know what I mean? Like all of us were like, dude, you have to see it.
Did he see it?
Oh yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, it's cool out here, dude. Dude, I went to Texas, to Giddy Up.
Yeah.
What was that? 2 years ago,
Last year.
last year.
Yeah.
And that was a blast, dude. I had fun riding out there. Pretty eventful.
Yeah. Fucking Mike and his.
We're gonna do the podcast then, but
Yeah.
who was
Yeah.
Dusty's bike?
Yeah. Dusty's bike fucked up, and then Mike had an accident where he tore his bicep
Yep.
riding a
Yeah.
bull. Yeah. I mean, you can't make that shit up.
Yeah. What was the term that you used? Honey dicking. I honey dicked him into
Yeah.
fucking riding a bull, dude.
I thought you guys from Texas. Y'all don't ride bulls here. What's up?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, man, the West Coast Jam for real it's really nice, dude. It's cool to meet a lot of people because, dude, like for me, at least in the FXR community, I know all these people, but I know them through like direct messaging. You know what I mean? I know what they look like from their Instagram or profile pictures, or what their fucking dog looks like, but I've never met them. You know what I mean? And so meeting them is huge, dude. Like it's this community. I'll tell you what. That's probably the biggest thing about FXRs.
Yeah.
Aside obviously from how well they ride, and the passion that was put into them when they were built. A lot of people don't know that story, but like literally the community is so helpful, and that's another part of the reason why I want to do the FXR Bazaar is that I really wanted to give back to that. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure like a lot of people, if people help you out, you want to help them out, right?
For sure.
And so as a whole, I'm like, dude, you guys are answering questions, like going out of your way to go take pictures of shit in the garage at 11:30 at night while I'm working on my stuff. Like I'm gonna do the same. Like treat people how you want to be treated and pass it on.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely one of the big things about the page that I really like. There's certain, I try to keep the prices, like if someone DMs me and says, oh, hey, this set of mags, $900, I'm like, whoa, and I just respond with, hey, that's really expensive. Like, I just don't want you to get roasted on the page. Cause like you throw that up and dudes are going to be like, oh, cool. What kind of bike comes with the wheels?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I try to do it politely. Some people take to it, some people don't, and they end up getting, roasted or whatever. But it's huge for me that this page really helps people out. You know what I mean?
Dude, I've sold plenty of things off of it.
Yeah, so. Keep FXRs on the road. Keep them looking good. Whatever. If you're not going to use a part, pass it on to the next dude for a reasonable price, and that's the name of the game, dude. Help each other out.
Yeah. It's when I got into it, man, when I first got into the FXR thing, Mike was probably the first one. He definitely was the first one that kind of showed me the ropes and really helped me dial in what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But as I got on my bike and I started traveling, just the kind of community it does have is it's really hard to explain, man. It's like, dude, it's like you're in if you have an FXR. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
It's like you're in automatically, and unless you're just a complete dick asshole, you can kind of stay in the club. But if your personality is just shit, then eventually you'll get kind of booted out. But and we're talking about like a nationwide like acceptance across the board,
worldwide.
Yeah,
like literally, guys are in other countries DMing me like, "Hey, dude, this is awesome. Hey, do you know how whatever works?" And I'm like, you can't use those struts with that bag setup. Yeah. Like you need to find these. Oh, cool. Can you put out a post for me? And then I'll put like, hey, willing to ship to, Bali. Like, like whatever.
Good luck.
If someone wants to do it, someone will do it. If this guy's willing to pay shipping, like that's on them. But yeah, dude, it's absolutely like that. Like you have an FXR, and because I think that all FXR owners know what it takes to keep FXRs on the road. Yeah. A lot of people call them, fixers or whatever, but in reality, like you get any vehicle. Yeah. I don't care if it's a Ford pickup truck or a Ferrari, dude. And if it's 30 years old and you could expect to just get on that thing and drive cross country and not have an issue, you got problems. Like, come on. So, that's that's kind of the thing that I think that people associate, oh, those things are always broken down or whatever, because dudes will go out and
Yeah.
finance a street bob right now, and you can probably ride that thing across country without an issue, but it doesn't have the same feel, it doesn't have the same soul, like, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, there's less of them on the road, even though there's still plenty on the road, but there's less on the road compared to most other new bikes, right? So
Oh,
you're kind of like in a smaller group there, but yeah, it's something special, man. It really is. I had something there. I was kind of I forgot it. I'm drinking
yeah.
this beer and I'm burping my ass off right now, so I apologize.
Yeah, you need to switch over. I'm on that High West bourbon whiskey, so yeah, no
Well,
burps here.
I had some whiskey that Cody Childress left here at our big party, and we just finished it off like a podcast ago. So,
Yeah,
if anybody else got some good recommendation on whiskey, man, let me know or send me some. I'll fucking drink it for you. Let you know how I feel.
Yeah.
I've been trying to drink whiskey, man. I do like that. It's a slower buzz for me. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, it all depends on how fast you drink it, but
yeah,
yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
But like, I mean, I'll sip on that because I can't really handle it as a
Yeah,
full, But yeah, just sipping on it feels great. It's kind of a smooth thing because the beer just, I got it. I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm pretty much going to stop drinking probably when I hit 40. So I got
yeah.
3 more years to go hard, and then I got to stop.
Gotta slow down.
Because I didn't really start drinking at all till I was 29. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
dude, you got to at least you're 55 then, dude. If you
yeah.
started that late.
Yeah, I didn't start, but dude, I was like in shape and shit when I was 30, and then I started drinking for 7 years, and I've got 40 more pounds on my ass now.
Yeah,
So
dude.
it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have you done your COVID-19 challenge? Gaining
No,
19 pounds
no,
in
dude,
19 days.
I just always had that pounds. It's weird, man.
Yeah, but yeah, man. Like, uh, getting back to kind of like I think one of the big things was that the passion behind FXRs is like the true catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's not only now. So back when the FXR was designed,
Mm-hmm.
like those dudes were passionate. The engineers and stuff, like they weren't just tasked with something like, oh, okay, cool, you want a triangle frame, cool, here you go. Like that's not how it worked.
Yeah.
I've had enough of my whiskey that I wasn't gonna say it, but I'm writing a book,
Nice.
and I've been writing a book for probably the past year and a half.
Nice.
Like that amount of research, deep into rabbit holes, finding out all the history, and yeah, dude, the passion, the amount of passion that went into the FXR is it's the first bike and the last bike that Harley Davidson ever made that will have that much testing, and just like I said, passion, dude, love for motorcycling, real riders out there riding, building bikes, analyzing, how it does in certain turns and stuff like that. Like it's not like that nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least in my opinion, it's very, for the dollar, you know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
it's corporate America now.
Yeah. But, yeah, dude. So I've been cruising on this book for, like I said, a year and a half, and it's wild, dude. Like there's a lot of misinformation, and like I said earlier in the podcast, like there's stuff that you go to research something and you'll get 5 different answers. Like, okay, cool. Well,
Yeah.
which one do I take? Okay,
Yeah.
this guy seems like he knows a lot about the motorcycle. Okay, this guy bought his bike new original in 1984, and he says that's how it is. Who do I trust, right?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out both of them are probably wrong. Like, there's Mythbusters, dude. Like, it's nutty, man. So, opposed to rewriting someone else's book or information, like, I just hit the ground running and hit those rabbit holes deep, dude.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got an answer to one of my questions, well, that opened up another question: is why this opposed to that? And then, dude, I've gone as far as as contacting, trying to get a hold of the people that molded the FXR T-fairing, like
Nice.
to that level. You know
That
what I
would
mean?
be super interesting to see and just get and you would think with such a huge project like that, people would be willing to share that information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
you know.
And so I feel like I'm not sure how into choppers and stuff like that you are, but as you know, a motorcycle enthusiast and riding Harleys, you know that the amount of information that's out there on, let's say, knuckleheads or panheads is overwhelming. Like
Yeah.
you could go on any of those pages and be like, "Hey, man, why does my case look like this? Is this a correct stamp?" And people would be like, instantly, you get 30 responses. No, man, that 3 looks wrong on the stamp. Like it wasn't a square or it wasn't a triangle, shaped 3. It
Yeah.
was more of like a round 3.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, right? And so all of that information has been told because everyone was on the hunt, right?
Yeah.
And come to find out that like FXRs kind of were the stepchild, if you will, of Harley back in the day because they didn't sell well. They, were called like a Japanese bike. They weren't a full like a large bike.
Yeah.
So the dudes that rode baggers or FLTs or whatever
Yeah.
were like, nah, that's like a Sportster. It's like a chick bike or whatever. And I don't know if that's the reason why it wasn't really researched or put out there, but
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
the research for sure, but like crazy enough, my wife's aunt that lives in Venice, man, she has like this book that her husband was deep into like just Hollywood, not movies, but like he had a band in the 60s, real hippie kind of
Yep.
shit. And then they did commercials forever. Like he worked on commercials for different places. And
Yeah.
like they'd have all these different friends that you create throughout the music and movie and production industry. And they'd have all these books and it'd be like filled with like Harley Davidson and the celebrities that ride them. And there's
Right.
books out there. And dude, I'm sitting there on her couch on a book on her shelf. Like, no, they don't care about motorcycles. Looking at FXRs from like the 90s of some
Yeah.
actor, Brett
Dude
Michaels or
brothers.
some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, dude. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, dude. Like, yeah.
I feel like
How-
the FXR, like, I don't know, but from what I hear and I assume, it didn't have it didn't hit the ground running in the 80s, but it seemed like by the time the 90s, and then you get that hamster style Pro Street thing going along, that it became the chassis to go to. And maybe it's because there was a lot of them and they were cheap to build bikes
Yeah.
out of.
And I mean, you see that like, within the past 10 years with Dyna maybe, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that blew up as soon as like, the T Sport, let's say, was 10 years old. Well, now you're spending more than what they cost new, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, so I know for a fact that they didn't sell well initially, right? Whether it be because of the economy at that point or, the new motorcycle that people were kind of skeptical of or whatever. But it got rave reviews initially from like, all the motorcycle magazines. There's not many out now, but,
Yeah.
back in the day, that's how you got your information. Like you'd pick
Yeah.
up a magazine at the grocery store, bring it home and read the reviews. And they got really good reviews from the magazines. All the like test riders and dealers, so they'd give a dealership a bike,
Yeah.
right? And an FXR to try. And all those guys, from what I've heard, loved it, right? So what was it? Was it the triangle? Was it that, it looked too Japanese? Growing up, if I saw an FXR, I was like, oh, that thing's sick, right?
Yeah.
But those older guys that came from shovel heads, they're expecting to see a lay down shock, right? So a shock position that, is, whatever the degree is on a shovel head,
Yeah.
more forward, and a square on the side, whether it be the battery, whether it be the oil tank, whatever, and it's exposed, right? So, but to get the strength and the rigidity in the FXR frame, it comes from that triangle. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into the rigidity and strength of that frame, but the triangle is a huge proponent as to, the transmission, the swing arm. It's all, locked in right there at the bottom of the triangle. And what's the strongest shape? A triangle. So I think that style like aesthetically, it may not have fit the Harley bill initially,
Yeah.
right? The other thing is that the early years, 82, 83, they were tall. They were tall, for lean angles to
Yeah.
perform and stuff like that. And so the guys that wanted a low bike, well, why would I go for the FXR when I can get this soft tail right here? Starting in what, 85.
Yeah.
So
Didn't
they go to the soft tail.
Well, I would imagine because no one ever. I don't think anybody ever liked like fairings and baggers back in the day. You know what I mean? Period. I think that was always kind of like,
Yeah.
it was almost like Harley's answer to the Goldwing, basically.
Dude,
And
I don't
then
know how many stories I've heard, because anytime I hear of like an older dude that had an FXR or has an FXR or was into it, like there's bags and fairings that were literally thrown in the trash, right? Like they'd get a brand new bike, get home, take all that shit off, and maybe put it in the paper or bring it to a swap meet.
it'd
It
be
wouldn't
hard to
sell for
sell shit.
$100 for the
Yeah.
kit for the whole set, and then end up fucking round filing it,
Yeah.
So, like literally, another kind of cool story. Right when I moved here, I was walking my dog one block over, and I see this candy painted FXR roller, and it's sitting at the back of the garage. The garage door's open, and this older dude sitting there. And I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man? Like, that's an FXR, huh?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, real soft-spoken dude." And he's like, "Yeah, it's an FXR." I was like, "Cool. I got an FXRP that I'm building." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's what this is." And me being like a younger dude, like, "Well, mine's a CHP, right?"
Yeah.
Like, And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's what this is." And I was like, "Wait, for real?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's a CHP." And he starts telling me that the CHP, the guy that ran the CHP, the yard essentially for the motor yard, the
Yeah.
motor pool, lived one town over, and that dude would buy all the bikes after they were decommissioned, and him and his brother had a motorcycle shop in a barn.
Yeah.
So I'm like, number one, where's this barn at?
Yeah.
Like, where is he located? Give
Yeah.
me coordinates, dude. And so, trying to get information and stuff like that. Turns out the dude, got brain cancer, died. I went out, found the water tower that he said it was next to on the road, and it's leveled. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing there. But I'm talking to him, and I'm bullshitting with him in his garage, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I see fairings. There's 2 fairings in his rafters,
Damn.
and 2 sets of RP bags in his rafters." And I'm like, "Whoa, what are you doing with those?" And I noticed that his frame was all shaped, completely 90s, candy tangerine.
Yeah.
And he's got a blend set, so it's candy tangerine with a root beer candy
Yeah.
over it, that fades.
Yeah.
And got billet wheels and shit on it. And I'm like, "Well, what are you gonna do with those? You can't use that on this." And he's like, "No, I've been holding on to them. I don't want them anymore." And I was like, "Well, like, what's up?" Let me, he's like, "Let me pull all my FXR stuff that I'm not gonna use, and I'll let you know when it's ready." So get it all. He gets it all down. Calls me like 2 weeks later, and his garage floor is filled with the FXR parts, bins, fucking front ends, everything. So I ended up scoring all that stuff for a really good price. And he's like, "Man, all this stuff was like, all my friends threw them away,
Yeah.
and I don't want to deal with it on eBay and shipping and everything else. Like, I'm glad that it's going to good use." And I've since helped him out and getting his bike back together and trying to source
cool.
a someone that can get his candy, like to match his from back in 1996.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. So especially in California. So
Too much sun.
yeah, the bags in general, the bags and fairing in general, like no one liked that shit.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
There's a, I find that the ones that were kept were like the FXRD, right? Because it was sold as like a limited edition.
Yeah.
Like all those.
That one had that had the blocky like radio and all that shit in it, didn't it?
Yeah, so starting in '86, the RD and then all the RTs got that same
I hate that
fairing with all the radio and everything. It's heavy, dude.
I don't like it. I don't
Yeah.
like the look, man. I like the older one the best. It just has more of a sleek look to it, man. I got 2 of those. I got 2 repop fairings, which brings me to another tangent right quick. It's like with these fairings getting super popular, and I know they look good on a lot of different bikes. I think they look good. I know that the FXR community is not a huge fan, specifically Mike Pantazzi does not like them on road glides and stuff. But the thing about these fairings is they're heavy. Even when they were factory, they're heavy fairings, and there's not it's a way different type of system. The fairing is inner and outer. It's all glued together.
Yep.
And if you get an original fairing and it's cracked up, it's worth its weight in gold compared to a fiberglass one, 100%. So I paint a lot of fiberglass ones, and the more and more I'm getting people doing it. So, and then imagine these things have been on the market now, these fiberglass fairings, for 5 years. So you're getting a lot of people that have cracked, fucked up ones that's been painted, that was painted poorly, and now they're on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for $500 with brackets, and these people are buying them, and then they take them to a guy like me to paint them, and it's a fucking like shit show. All the fiberglass is stress cracked everywhere. It's not worth stripping paint off of it to save it. It would be cheaper to buy a new fairing than me strip paint off of an RT fairing. It's so complicated. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, like, you know, when I built my FXR, man, I scouted for all original parts, like original fairing, lowers, all that shit, and it had cracks in them. I got the lowers from Danger Dan, and they look like somebody just drove a car over it. It was ridiculous.
But for sure.
It was a lot of work, but we were able to plastic weld and bond it both sides because I knew I wanted to paint the inner and outer of it.
Yeah.
It's really tough, man. It's tough, and that fairing is a very complicated fairing to paint and handle and ship. Yep. And when they come to my shop, they cost a lot of money to get painted, even if they're going solid color.
It's not just now either, dude. It's back in the day. Yeah. Harley Davidson themselves had issues with that. You know what I mean? Like from the mold, they didn't. Yeah, I'm not going to get too deep into it because I want to save some for the book. But just know that Harley Davidson had issues too, dude. Like it's not just us. It's not, it's not, 30 years down the line, we're not just the only ones dealing with it.
Yeah.
As for aftermarket stuff, I'm sure that there's great products out there that, they try really hard to put out a good product. But for me, like, I only run OG stuff, dude. Like, maybe it's because I have it readily available, through the page or whatever. At any point, anyone can put out a post, hey, in search of whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So, they'll put out a post, and within minutes, people will be like, hey, dude, I have one on the shelf. Like, I don't really want to get rid of it, but here's my price. And if you're willing to pay it, like you said, it might be worth paying, $1,000 for a fairing when opposed to getting an aftermarket one for $600 and then having, the painter have to do all the finish work to even get it close for paint,
One of the big reasons too is that like the factory fairings they're made out of plastic, so the inside is paintable. The inside of the fiberglass fairings are rough plastic, so it looks like shit. And to make it look nice, costs a lot of money.
Gotta fill it. A lot of primer, a lot
of money, and then all that shit makes it heavier, and it becomes brittle. And it's it's complicated. So the best, I always say, like, especially if you're building an FXR. If you're building an FXR, you got to. But if you're trying to put it on a bagger, though, that wide front end won't fit in a stock fairing, so you have to kind of go aftermarket.
Right.
That's fair. But
and then on top of that, you got the gap, and not the good kind of gap.
There's some people trying to work on that gap right now. So a big issue is the fact that the tank is so far behind, and then you have such a wide triple tree that has to have space to turn.
Yep.
So it creates that nasty gap, which I agree. It's not the best in the world. But it's like one of those deals, like if you've never owned an FXR and had a fairing on it, then it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yep. And so a lot of people know that fairing originally came from the Nova. I don't know if you're familiar with the Nova project, but that thing was tested, man. It was, like I said, all FXR stuff was all tested. It was tested to the point where like shit was falling off. You know what I mean? And all those guys said that, it's still to this day, besides maybe the Road Glide fairing, it's the best protection from the wind and the best functional fairing that Harley made. You know,
I would agree to that. I mean, the way the lowers are designed, it cuts the wind and
yeah,
it disperses wind into the motor and away from your legs,
yeah.
creating a very nice, a very comfortable ride for me, honestly. That's the first time I ever rode with any lowers on a
And then
bike.
frame mounted fairing, right?
Yeah.
So, the T Sport fairings, they look cool. The quarter fairings look cool, but when, like, I don't know, riding in California, I'm sure there's wind everywhere, but
Yeah.
you get strong winds and you got a tall fairing, and of course it's in the up position and it's not back because up looks cool and back doesn't. Wind catches that thing and you're getting all over the place,
Yeah, it's helping that shakeout.
wherever the wind takes you, dude.
Yeah.
And not saying that it's that much better, in gusts and stuff like that with a full fairing,
Yeah.
with an RT fairing, but it's frame mounted and it'll move the whole bike opposed to just the front end.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I've always liked the road glides and stuff. I mean, I went from a road glide to a Dyna to an FXR back to a road glide. You know what I mean? So it's like it's and mainly because it's available and I can finance a road glide. I can't really finance an FXR. So
Yeah.
but
I mean, that's the reason why I was, on Dynas initially,
Yeah.
I didn't have the cash up front to buy an FXR. I could make that $200 payment every month, but I couldn't, I didn't have the cash up front to drop on an FXR.
So as far as your book is concerned with all this stuff, how have you been able to get some good interviews with anybody or get good conversations with anybody from around there yet to kind of help fill in some of the gaps?
Absolutely, dude. It's all based on interviews. So I won't give too much away, but all of the people that I could find that worked on the original FXR team, meaning the engineers, including Eric Buell, Rit Booth, who did all the analytical stuff and designing, Bob Leroy, all those guys were interviewed. And then Louis Netz, who was a styling director at that time, worked hand in hand with Willie G. It was literally those two,
Yeah.
in the styling department back then.
So let me ask you something.
Those guys were all interviewed.
I'm asking this because I don't know. I know who Willie G is, and I know that he's played a huge part in the in a lot of the designing and stuff like that, as well as Eric Buell in the time. So, what was Willie G's role back then? I mean, was he just literally the swag coordinator or something?
Well, so he actually worked for so right now, if you go on Harley's website, there's I think it's harleydavidson.tv, and it's actually got a full documentary on Willie G. It's an hour and a half long. It's got little ads and shit in there, but it's super if for the nerds out there, if you want to know what Willie G did, it spells it out. And so he, obviously, is a Davidson. He worked a little bit at the company, then went to art school. From art school, he worked for this other I think it was an industrial design company. Don't quote me on that, but he worked for some other company and then came back to Harley Davidson. And when he came back to Harley Davidson, he was got moved into the styling department, and I think his actual title was styling director at first, and then he moved up, and Louis Netz worked right underneath him. So it was those two from 1970, I think 74. And Willie G was the styling guy up until recently, I mean, he's obviously trained. Some people have, their opinions on Harley Davidson in general and Willie G, but he absolutely did try to do the best job that he did that he could.
Yeah. What was Eric Buell's role in the FXR?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that people were like, oh, Eric Buell designed the FXR. He actually came in after it was designed, and he came in from a rider standpoint. So I don't want to give too much away, like I said, but he was really on the analytical side from a rider standpoint and testing. So that bike was tested like as far as you could test it,
Yeah.
to the point where they're doing, they're getting into wobbles,
Yeah.
like just pushing it as far as it can go. And there's a lot of information. Like I said, I'm gonna try to keep it for the book, just because, like, I've worked so hard, and like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the amount of research that seriously went into this. Like, a recent book got released on the FXR, and it was super subpar. Like,
Was it a
you could
Wolfgang
get
Puck book or some shit?
what's that?
Was it like a Wolfgang Puck book or some shit?
It may have been,
Yeah, I'm not
but
trying to.
it didn't do the justice. It didn't
Yeah.
do the bike justice. It didn't do the whole story justice. And
Or was it put out by a hamster so it starts the story of FXR in 1990?
no, dude, the hamsters were sick, dude. The Dave Perowitz is actually another one of the interviews that I got. I'm sure you know who he is.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
As a painter and bike builder. But yeah, dude, they like that whole era, I think, is really what, I mean, obviously custom bikes have been around forever, but that era was really magazine based, and a
Yeah.
lot of dudes, as soon as, like I said, you'd go to, you'd get your motorcycle fixed, either you rode it, or in the evening when you're chilling, you'd pick up a magazine, and those guys were on the covers, had full spreads, chicks in bikinis. And
The good days.
I mean, what better way to enjoy a beer and wind down at the end of the day than look at cool bikes and chicks,
Yeah. Yeah, I miss that, man. A lot of people talk about magazines and, like, how they miss it, but then, there's still, and I'm guilty as this too, there's still some people out there trying to put some badass shit out there, and nobody's supporting it. Therefore, it doesn't exist. It goes away,
Yeah.
And
it's tough, man.
I guess I find myself in a weird place with magazines, right? Because, like you are saying with FXRs, I'm like that with all motorcycle stuff. You know what I mean? From all aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to just be about the bikes, but over the last couple of years, this huge passion to get people to ride has become like this new thing, which is weird because
Right.
a lot of people do ride. Like, don't get me wrong, it ain't like there's fucking 3 of us out there smashing miles, and the rest of the country's like, what are they doing? But just trying to reinforce
Right.
the idea of getting out and finding these very impactful experiences on motorcycles that really tie you into the passion for motorcycles. And it's like what you guys do with the FXR Jam. It's that vibe of, a whole bunch of dudes going and hanging out at a hotel and just letting loose and fucking nerding out on bikes and wherever else the wind takes you. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
shit is amazing, man. It's a great feeling. And so is picking up hot chicks on your bikes. You know what I mean? It's like all those different things, But
and I think that, like, especially everything's commercialized nowadays, right? So we have magazines essentially at the end of our fingertips, for whether it be Instagram or whatever, Google search whatever you want. You could be into friggin' grass clippings, you know what I mean? Be like, oh, Google grass clippings, and you could have anything at the end of your fingertips in an instant. You know what I mean? But I think that everything is really commercialized. Like, a lot of people have an agenda, you know what I mean? And that's one thing that's cool that we liked about the East Coast FXR Jam, although I've never been. Like, you see pictures and it's just dudes chilling, riding, getting to know each other, getting to know each other's bikes, like, nerding out. And that's one of the cool things, is that there's zero agenda at the FXR Jam. Like, it's going to happen whether, 100 people come or 3 people come.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, no one's there. There's no tents set up. There's no business cards being, passed out. There's no, it's not a bike show, although it kind of is, just in the sense that, like, these guys work on their bikes for however long and want to come show them off and, like, and ride them,
what better place to do it than where people appreciate what you did,
Exactly. And
go ahead. Sorry.
the people that the people that know, right? So, I mean, you pull up to a gas station, it's a lot different than, like, if you pull up to a gas station and this guy comes up and he's like, "Hey brother, I got a motorcycle too, man. I got a Harley Davidson. That's a real nice bike. This and that. It's really clean."
Yeah.
And start kind of giving you props on your bike, and then he's like, "Check out my whatever bike," and then he pulls it out and like he wants to show you his bike. Like it's a different feeling than say at the FXR gym where you love this other dude's bike and he comes up to you and is like, "Hey man, your bike is fucking tight." Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I really like how you did this. It's subtle, whatever, or it's extreme, or what have you. You know what I mean? Like,
what you call that is respect amongst your peers, or I think that's what it is. But yeah, that's the same thing for a lot of us in the custom paint, in the building industry. When it's really easy to please a lot of people with cool shit, if you build a bike. But what's real rewarding is when you please people that are capable of doing it themselves, that walk up and go, "Fuck, man, like, that's dope." And I try to be that dude as much as I can to tell people when I see something cool, because we all know there's a whole bunch of haters out there. They're going to just talk shit whenever they get an opportunity because they have the option to.
Yep.
And when you see someone that builds a bike, or you see someone that paints something badass, or just someone that put together a clean FXR like that 90 lowrider I was talking to you about earlier, that I just saw it, I was like, that thing is making me feel special right now. Like that thing, I love looking at this photo that you took of this bike, man.
Yeah.
And trying to let people know that and put more of that shit out there. I try to do that as much as I can for all aspects,
Yeah.
I don't comment on a lot of people's shit at all, because I try, especially on Facebook, I don't do it at all. But on Instagram, I try to just not, but I will comment if something's cool. If I think, at least if I think it's cool as shit, So if I don't comment on your shit, that means it ain't cool.
Yeah. Well, dude, for me, like, I'm a positive dude, man. Like, guys that know me, I generally always have a smile on my face. I'm either bullshitting or, nerding out on bikes or whatever. And, I literally try to be the most positive that I can in any situation. You know what I mean? And like I said earlier, man, like I'll nerd out on someone's bike that's completely stock, fucked up with you could see the inner primary, or the primaries dripping all over the place. I'm like, like I'll still nerd out on it and still bullshit with you and still have a good time. Like I don't have any anything to prove to anyone. Like, if your bike's if it's an FXR number one, it's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if you're riding it, it's cool. If it's in the garage and you're working on it, it's cool in my book.
Yeah. Yeah, man. You were talking about the magazines. Hell, we're talking about these bikes. We're talking about the painting that all the FXR guys pitched up to do for you. And a lot of those things are basically sentimental type things, that you get from people that you respect, and vice versa and stuff like that. And, we were talking about this in a recent podcast with the Tucker Speed guy, Tony. And I think that's one of the things that I think the newer generations, I wouldn't quite say millennials, because millennials is kind of is a lot of people that are in our scene are millennials. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the newest generation, which I think is the Y, is the one that I really think that they've completely grown up with the throwaway mentality for everything they've ever owned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I still got shit from when I was a kid, toys that don't even work anymore, but they're just in a box in my mom's house that I don't want to get rid of. You could call it hoarding, if you will. But at the same time, like, say, for instance, the only thing that I have left from my FXR, the only thing, and I tried to keep some things, ended up just having to get rid of it or whatever the case may be, is the 3 gold rotors, or no, 2, I'm sorry, because I had a single disc. The 2 gold rotors that were on the wheels. That's all I have left. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'll never get rid of them, because to me, like, I didn't really know what to keep of the bike. I tried to keep the side covers, but the dude wanted them.
Right.
But to me, it's just like, I want to hang them up in the studio here, and it, people know, they know. If they don't, it's whatever, But for me, it's just something to remind me. That's the way I am with my helmets, a lot of shit, man. And magazines, same thing. A magazine, the good thing about magazines is, even though there's so much content here, it's taken differently. You take a magazine in differently than you take a social media post.
Oh,
you know
fully.
What I mean? Because you take social media posts in the same aspect that you have the ability to respond, question, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, do you feel like you have some kind of extra currency that you're also trading with for this thing? Well, hey, bro, I liked your shit. Why don't you follow me back? You know what I mean? As opposed to a magazine, you bought a magazine, you're looking at it. You can't comment, like it, hate it, talk shit about it. You just got to sit there and enjoy it. And there's something about that. And I will also say that a lot of magazines, especially the bigger ones, the later years, they just kind of fell to advertising more than the actual content they were putting out. That's clear. Right. But fuck, man, I remember those old Easy Riders. I'm fucking bummed Easy Riders is gone. And this new shit that's out, Easy Rider, I don't know what the fuck that is. It's
like I haven't even picked it up, man.
Dude, don't. It's pointless. It's stupid. It's
and you know, I haven't really thought of that, of like it being a currency, but I guess it's true, man. Like you know, obviously it's filtered, right? Everything on social media is filtered, right? Same thing in magazines or whatever. And when I say filtered, I don't mean like an actual, like, you know, 1977 filter or whatever in Instagram. Like an actual filter in the sense that like not everything's shown. And that could be, you know, that goes for like personal life too. Like, you know, when you know, I don't even know, dude. Like when you spill the milk in the morning when you're, you know, pouring your cereal or whatever, like, no, you don't post that, like that shitty moment in your day. Like, no, you're going to post the bomb ass picture of your burrito, your wet burrito at the, you know, taco spot or whatever. And, you know, so it's definitely filtered. And as for the like currency portion, I definitely, now that you mention it, like I'm in my own world, dude. I do my FXR stuff and that's it. But I will say that like certain guys can put out any picture, whatever it is, right? If you have the followers, like a picture of a soda can will get fucking 700 likes or 7,000 likes, depending on if you're Kim Kardashian or not, you know? Like,
but you also got to think a lot of people will like that shit because they feel like it's their way of
connecting with
getting
the person.
Connected in some way because they want something out of it. So not all of them,
right? You
know, but some of them kind of want some kind of like inner circle-ism or something, you know. It's a theory, you know, but at the same time, it's just weird, man. It's a weird place to be. It's made it an extra layer of complication in life, trying to grow up and be an honest man and things like that. You know, you throw social media on there, and if you get lucky enough to be somebody that builds something that you have thousands of followers, that becomes a very different place to live in life. You know what I mean? I mean, FXR Bazaar has quite a few thousand fucking people on there. You know what I mean? That you're dealing with every day, and and you probably get tenfold more messages a day than I do, and I get a bunch of messages.
Get hella messages.
Dude,
for sure. There's a ton of messages, and you know, I don't know. Maybe I just don't think of it like that. I don't mean to sound like you know, like I'm trying to say that I'm humble or anything like that. But like I'm anonymous on the page up until now, right? Because I don't need that. I don't need the like people coming up and saying like, "Oh, dude, thank you," or you know, like, dude, it's completely appreciated when people, you know, either, you know, say thank you or, you know, kick back if they sell a bike, you know, kick back, you know, $50-$100 or whatever. Like it is a lot of work on my end, but at the same time, like it's who I am. Like I love this stuff. You know what I mean? And so I don't need to, I don't need that in my life. I don't need that fulfillment. Like I'm happy as a person. I have, you know, I'm proud at the work that I do, both like on my actual job, off my actual job, and then on FXR Bazaar. You know, like I try to, if anyone has a question, and I'm sure people out there will vouch, like, hey man, like what on Facebook would be like a stupid question. Like someone would be like, hey man, what size is the axle on an FXR? Like they might not want to be, you know, put themselves out there for not knowing because they just got the bike or whatever, you know. But I'll share that information. Like, dude, it's a 3/4 inch axle, you know. Whoa, don't buy those. Those are, you know, sealed bearings unless you want to switch everything over, you know, like I'm willing to share that because people were willing to share that with me.
Exactly.
And that's like treating people how you want to be treated has, I feel like, gone away. You know what I mean?
To play devil's advocate with that, man, it's really hard though, because most people, I completely agree. I want to be the nicest person, but you can only handle interactions with so many people a day, treating them how you want to be treated. Not saying I wouldn't treat them, I would treat them like shit, but like I can't physically answer in depth all the questions and respond to all the stories that come my way. And you know, when I talk about it, I talk about it like, fuck, I couldn't imagine being Rusty Butcher or, you know, Danny Dixon or these guys with hundreds of thousands of people that are just fucking like all over their shit. You know, like I just couldn't do it. I couldn't imagine it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that your situation, I understand where you're coming from, because believe me, there's days where I'm like, you know, is this like, why am I doing this? This like, I've answered this question 20 times.
How many people hit you up in a way that that it makes you feel like they think that you owe them the answer?
Not so many people with questions, but there are people that, you know, and not knocking anyone, dude. Yeah. Like I said, but there's people that, you know, I'll post a ton of stuff for them, you know, in search of posts, you know, for sale items, whatever, and they'll sell multiple bikes off of my page. The buyer, you know, will say, hey man, thanks, I found that bike off your page and this and that. And, you know, they won't even buy a support shirt. You know what I mean? Like, and that's their own prerogative. If they don't want to do that, if they're in it for the business or just flipping bikes or whatever, like I get it, but that wouldn't be me. You know what I mean? Like if someone helps me out, you better believe I'm helping you out, dude. Like there's been people that like, you know, for example, they'll send me a post, you know, hey, can you post this up for sale? And I'm like, dude, I'll take it. Like, I'll pay you, you know, whatever your asking price. And they insist on sending it to me. Right. And it may be, you know, fucking a blinker setup or something like that. Not a FXRT fairing blinker setup, but just like a normal rear blinker setup. Market price, probably, I don't know, 50 or 60 bucks. Right. Well, dude, you better believe that next time I do a shirt run, I'm throwing you a shirt, dude. Like this isn't, I'm not a, you know, I appreciate the offer, but at the same time, I appreciate your offer in the sense that like, I'm going to help you out too. Like you help me, I help you, man. And the shirt, I don't charge anything for posts, as you know, but a lot of your listeners may not. I don't charge anything for posts. When it gets posted, it stays on the site. And that's for a couple reasons. So if you're looking to sell your mags or your Thunderheader, you can go back and scroll through every, you know, I think there's like, I don't know, 11,000 posts. God damn. You could scroll back as far as you want until you see a Thunderheader and say, okay, what did this guy sell it for? Okay, there's, you know, it was in good condition or bad condition or brand new or whatever. It was for mids, forwards, or boards. Yeah. And so it's used kind of as a reference. And I do that for a couple reasons. Like, number one, it takes more work to delete something, right? That's one more step that I have to take.
Especially now, 11,000.
Yeah, exactly. And then number two, I want it to be a reference. I want it to, like, it's for the community, right? So if it's, let's say, like a Beckett guide. I don't know if you know, collected
the cards and the
basketball or baseball cards back in the day, but it's like a Beckett guide, right? And I'd much rather have them use this as a Beckett guide than eBay.
Yeah, right?
Because people are going to be like, oh, cool, I have this, you know, set of convertible bags. Search convertible bags, and the one set of convertible bags that's been on there for years from the same person is, you know, $1,200, and they're fucking clapped. You know what I mean? They're horrible, faded. You know, the leather's all shriveling up, and so. Like I made a meme back in the day, like eBay is not a price reference guide. Like it's not, you know? And I have to remind people that, you know, often when they DM me and say, oh, I want to sell this for this amount, and I let them know, you know? But yeah, the shirts are how the page makes money. And really I've been putting all of that money into either the page primarily, or if I need something on the bike or whatever. You know what I mean? Um, I have Conrad. Did you
Yeah.
have Conrad
I
on yours?
haven't. I'm a huge fan of him, and I've been wanting him to do shirts for me forever. You know what? The last time I spoke to him recently, but the last time I had a conversation with him about doing a shirt for us was the day that the Dyna got stolen in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so I had the money to do a shirt, and I was gonna deposit to him and everything, and then the bike got stolen, so
Psych.
I had to pay the deductible, which is not. I'm not bitching about that at all because I got out of that easily for my buddy, but
Yeah.
and I haven't had a chance to get back with him. But man, he makes cool shit, and the shirts that you guys do with them, and I'm guilty. I haven't got one yet, but it's like the reason why I don't buy shirts, and I'm not trying to like stifle anybody's shit.
No, totally.
Is that I'm such an awkward size that I sometimes am a extra large and a 2XL, and it's always in between the two, and I just. You know what I mean? I never know. So if I'm not there to try it on, it's hard for me to kind of pull the trigger on shit, you know?
No, I hear
Yeah.
And so dude, Donnie is for those you listening, it's Conrad _ I think SR
yeah.
on Instagram. He does all of my artwork. And initially I had my first artwork or whatever that I had him do was I drew it up. I'm not an artist by any means, but I just drew up like an FXR triangle real quick, and then a bike coming out of the triangle.
Yeah.
And I was like, Donnie, this is what I'd like. And he's like, that's sick. Let's work with it.
Say no more.
What's that?
Say no more, bro.
Yeah. And so he sends it to me, and then it comes back, and I'm like, something's not right. Like those little things. And just from a nerd standpoint, I know that if that was on my shirt, like I'd be like, dude, those are like, that's not the correct, whatever, you know what I mean? You name it. And so I think it had a quarter fairing initially. And I was like, man, I really want it to be a windshield because no one has a fucking windshield on their t-shirt. You know what I mean? So I wanted that convertible windshield on there. And for those listening, like I'm not the run of the mill guy. Like I don't, my bikes are not like the standard, or my style, I guess you'd say, is not the standard what everyone else likes. You know what I mean? I'm not going to roll a black bike unless it's a super rare, like,
somebody built
I don't even
it.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I'm super into, or 90s or something like that. Like that's just not my style. I like, whether it be flashy bikes or off the beaten path. And so same thing true with the shirts, like I wanted that windshield on there, and I wanted it to be kind of like sporty looking. So he made that up and got it printed, and I did probably of that first colorway, it was probably like, I don't know, 50 shirts. And I was pumped, dude.
Yeah.
Because all I wanted to do is put out a shirt that had an FXR on it that people would like. You know what I mean? Like, worst case scenario, I have a shirt with an FXR on it. You know what I mean? Like, and so it wasn't like to make money or anything like that. And then I did a couple, like I do like 3 or 4 colorways of each design. The second one was the RT, which apparently I've never been there, but the Monument Valley, it's on the wrong side, I heard.
Yeah. Well, he might have mirrored it.
Yeah. But that one's got an RT on it with the chick on the back, no helmets, and they're just in the wind.
Yeah.
And then the most recent one, I scour eBay often to find, like original Harley shirts with FXRs on them.
Yeah.
And so I found a couple shirts, got them, and then there was this one design that had an eagle coming out of.
That's what I'm saying.
Just a general triangle, not an FXR triangle. And I was like, dude, how sick would that be? So I went full 90s.
It's like that sin wave art or something like that. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. That the eagle one I really like. That one's dope.
Yeah.
Because I've been wanting to like do a design shirt wise because all my bikes I run those Live to Ride gas caps and shit from like the 80s and 90s. So on my bagger downstairs, I got that gas cap. I actually got a gas cap in my shop on a tank I painted that's just sitting on the wall that I actually pulled out of John Jessup's bin a couple of years ago. Just an old gas cap. I was like, how much you want for it? He goes, take it. And I'm like, fucking, don't tell me twice. So I took it,
Yeah.
and it was a left-hand gas cap for the left side gas, for like
Yep.
a fill on the kickstand side, and
Yep.
but it's a dope ass cap. So I just kind of I say I collect them, but if I see them everywhere, I always try to buy them. I want the OG ones from like the '90s and '80s and '70s and
Yeah.
shit.
So about that, like my convertible, so it's called Rich Candy Wild Cherry, but it's a super dark like eggplant color convertible, and I got it, and I had all this, all these parts that I've bought over the years and stuff like that, and they're all period correct, if you will. So I wanted this bike, like in my vision of this bike, it had a guy that bought the bike in the 90s that came up on a bunch of money and bought all the parts and accessory stuff.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I wanted the bike to look like
Uh-huh.
aesthetically, feel all that stuff. So it looks like, if like, I don't even know, like an old man rich bike. Right. So I put a
sugar
paint
daddy
match
bike.
bearing on it. It's got the leather glove boxes.
Uh-huh.
I found a new original stock leather Western dash. So it's got that Western kind of paisley
Yeah. I've seen those
dash,
before. They
and
look
it's
dope.
from Harley Davidson, right? And then every Live to Ride piece. So
Everyone.
the mirrors, the gas cap, the air cleaner cover, the timing cover, like
Derby
all
cover.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
FXR Mike had a couple of those things. I was trying to get off him for a while. I'm scrolling through your Instagram right now because I wanted to see that shirt with the Monument Valley, and I think I'm on like 8,000 on post 8,000 right now. So
oh yeah. It'd be back there a ways, but yeah, man. So the shirts, like Donnie is super friendly, super easy to work with. Like he sent me stuff and I'm like, ooh, that's not what I had in mind. Hey, can we change this around? Can we change this around? He's like, absolutely. So yeah, huge shout out to him. And the customer service, dude, his work's great. His customer relationship is great. And like, for those of you who are thinking of getting shirts made, he does it so that way when you bring it to the screen printer, it's all separated. And my printer is super happy with him in the sense that, like,
so he's doing the art fees for you. You know what I mean? So it's all ready to go.
Yep. Yeah. So it takes one step out for him, which he's pumped on, and it also allows the capability of changing colorways, right? Because I mean, when you go somewhere, you don't want to be the same, wearing the same shirt as someone else. So that's the reason why I do variations of colorways and shit like that. So I try, I got to do a black shirt because everyone has black shirts, but I know that my dresser is full of black shirts.
Yeah.
So I try to do, grays. I did a navy blue and gold one recently.
Yeah.
But
oh yeah, I remember that one now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm still on like 3 conversations ago, or not or the same conversation, but 3 minutes ago. But yeah, that one was dope, man. I like that. I just like that vibe because it really captures like the essence of being out on the road. You know what I mean? And it's like real art to me. You know what I mean? I wanted to get him to do one for our camp out this weekend coming up, and but I just didn't reach him in time to be able to get the artwork and everything done to printing. Yep. But yeah, I want to do it.
He also did the artwork for the upcoming jam too. So it's got the Topaz Lodge sign in the background with the it's an old school sign.
Yeah, marquee kind of thing.
With like mountains and then like it's a lit up screen, like the old school kind of like bulbs and shit like that. So he had that done, but yeah, man, it's cool, dude. Like this whole thing, like I'm super grateful of all the people in the community that have supported the page, and I'm glad that it's working. Like I literally, I didn't know if it was gonna work or if it was gonna be a dud or whatever. And you've had Joseph Gerardo on and talking about the page, and he's like, dude, I just didn't want to see like a friend fail. You know what I mean? And no one wants to fail in general, and I just try to do the best that I can for everyone out there, and really keep it I guess from a guy who loves FXRs, about FXRs, for FXRs. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. That it's like I mean, I've known that it was that you were the guy behind it since day one. But like you said, a lot of people don't know it. So for all I know, the guy behind FXR Dyna Parts Trader,
Yeah.
he might not be into FXRs and Dynas anymore.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Yeah, he's a really good dude. I've met him a couple times at like the NorCal swap. And he's, come out as who he is or whatever. But yeah, he's got a dyno that's all set up, and it's a cool bike if you're into dynos for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those of you like listening that are into the page, my name is Nick Henzo. Jason said it before on the podcast, but
many times.
I'll put this out on my page too.
Was it you that told Mike to say bananas all those times that a long time ago?
Yeah. So just as a joke, like I told him, like, hey, slip in, the word banana 10 times,
That was the first podcast we ever released with Mike.
Yeah. So,
crazy.
So that was on there. And he actually didn't plant them in. He just said, okay, this one's for Nick. Bananas, and just listed all the bananas. So I was actually kind of expecting him to come at me with something to throw in, some word to use or joke to play on. Use the word meow.
He's one of our guests that when we have on, like it's always like people like a lot of our podcast audience seems to really dig Mike. You know what I mean? So
he's a great dude.
Yeah, I mean obviously he's a great dude, but like. There's a lot of great dudes that come on the podcast that like some, I wouldn't say they didn't get great feedback, but I mean, I guess because I've always looked at Mike as kind of like a closer friend, even though we only talk every once in a while, it's still like me and him get together and we can pick up and talk for hours,
Right.
But he was like the very first dude we ever did a podcast with before we never released it because it was funny, but it just the quality was bad, blah, blah, blah. We were learning. And he was one of the dudes that helped push us into doing this podcast. And so, for me, like having him on all the time and people getting to hear from him and the fact that, he's always he helped me get in the FXRs. And I can't tell you how many other people in America he's helped facilitate great deals on bikes, parts, people to help people out of situations and stuff like that. And, and Mike was the first dude in FXRs ever met, and that's coming off of the big wheel bagger world where everybody was stabbing you in the back. And so it was just such a like refreshing breath of air to be around somebody who was so passionate about bikes and not passionate about the money they spent on their bike. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the money or trying to having anything to prove really.
Yeah,
Mike is I'd probably call him one of my best friends. Sure. Like if not my best friend. Like him, Dusty, and I are in a group, DM, chat, whatever, and it's daily, dude. Like I talk to those good dudes every single day.
Yeah.
And it may be about like, some bike gets posted that's cool, or we like this on a certain bike, and we'll, share it in the group, and like, I'd say that, it's people like that have really given me the drive to like. This book, like, not to like try to toot my own horn or anything, but it's fucking nutty, dude. Like the amount of information that has never been told, probably because a lot of people didn't care about it. Like having people to talk to about constantly, because dude, my wife does not like talking about FXR. She could tell you what a convertible looks like just from
the shit there,
Yeah, bullshitting and showing her pictures and everything. She's like, "Oh, that's an RT fairing, but why is it on this freaking Sportster?" She's well versed, but the friends in the community that I'm able to nerd out on like the idiosyncrasies, like the smallest details, and being like, "Dude, that's a freaking 85 with a 1993 paint job," or like. This is weird or this is different, right? And so anytime that those things come up, I'll run it past a gambit of people and be like, hey, what do you make of this, right? And so we'll do research and get to the bottom of damn near every question that we have,
I was kind of going to say this earlier, but when I started going up there to NorCal to paint, and I met so many people in the big wheel and just the custom world. And, I've said it a million times in this podcast, literally working out of a shop a block away from Jessup's and never meeting him, never really knowing any of that shit. You still there? I think we lost him. It's always awkward. You still there, Nick? You back?
Yeah. Hey, sorry dude.
It's all good.
Okay, so you're talking about NorCal?
Okay, so like when I was going up there and stuff, and I was doing all the work with the guys, that I was working with, and literally like a block away from Jessup's shop, never knowing him, never meeting him, and then falling into FXRs, and then it dragging me right back to the same street I was already working on with the shop 2 blocks over. It kind of blew my mind a little bit, like, and then to like meet all the other dudes out there, like Joe Kidd and Josh and his wife and you and all the fucking people out there. The I don't know the actual guy's name. I think I met him at that went by the Sportster name, XLNT Sportster.
Oh yeah.
And then I think he got a FXR eventually, right?
Yep.
Like all these fucking people, it's like it's just cool, man. It really is. And like I said, it was really strange for me. Like still having this drawback to NorCal for a new bike than a new style that was already going on. I just wasn't aware of it at the time,
Yeah, and it's been going on for years, before I was into it for sure. And back in the day, like these dudes were ripping FXRs. You know what I mean? Like riding cross country, riding hard and stuff like that. Like and just to speak on that, like Mike came out, he stayed with me for the West Coast Jam, and randomly I was like, "Hey guys,
you ready to let the dogs out?"
Yeah, you guys ready to let the dogs out? Hey guys, you want to get together for dinner, right?
Yeah.
So at within probably an hour and a half notice at the Barn Cafe, which is a little like barbecue joint, whatever. Yeah. We had probably 10 to 12 FXRs. All FXRs there, and all of us were sitting down eating dinner. You know what I mean? Like, it's really cool that, I mean, I'm blessed because I know that there's people out in like the middle of Ohio that nerd out on FXRs hard, and they won't see another FXR for, dude, a year.
Yeah.
Unless it's like on Instagram or Facebook or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool, dude. It's really cool to have the guys that are passionate around and truly into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it, man. Trust me.
Like it's literally on my little route. The little story time. On my little route, just around here, like if I have an hour or whatever to kill, I'll go hit some country roads. And on this one country road, probably like, I don't know, 3 miles away, there's always this house, and it's got a ranch on it, horse trailer there, and I got some horses, and the garage door is always open. And there's like 20 cats, dude. Always. There's 20 cats just like in this garage.
Yeah.
And in the garage is a skinny back tire of a motorcycle with a cover over it, right? And I'm like, okay, that could be a number of motorcycles, right?
Yeah.
And so I ride by this place all the time, and the dude's out there one day, and so I'm on my R4, flip a bitch, come back, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Like just bullshitting with him. He's old country dude, and he's like, hey, what's up? And I was like, hey, what's underneath that cover, man? And he's like, it's one of those, and he points to my bike, and I'm like, "Oh, you got an FXR under there?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, it's actually an FXLR custom." And I was like, "Cool, man." Like I start, turn off the bike, whatever, bullshitting with him, and he pulls the cover off. And he's like, "Man, I was gonna sell it years ago, and I just, I didn't have the heart to do it. I had it on Craigslist." And he pulls the cover off, and this thing is chromed out, dude. Like he hasn't rode it. He said in like, I don't know, 6 to 8 years. But it's got chrome inner primary, which, like, dude, finding a factory chrome inner primary now is like impossible. Yeah. So all chrome lowers, chrome everything, dude. And then he's got one of those V style oil coolers that go on the down tubes.
Yeah,
it's like an old school 90s deal. And I was like, "Oh, that's sick too," And he's like, "Oh yeah, I used to work at the port in Stockton, and one of those guys actually designed this, and this is one of like the first batches he made before he sold the design." I'm like, little stuff like that. I'm like, dude, this is fucking awesome, And so there's FXRs out there, dude. They're tucked in garages. Everyone wants to search Craigslist or Facebook and stuff like that, and they pop up for sure. Yeah. And I was talking with Oliver. He also interviewed Oliver on the book, Oliver Jones, The Cut Rate. And we nerded out for probably, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours talking on the phone. And there's bikes out there. And there was, we were talking about the whole influx of, panheads and knuckleheads. When those guys die, it's going to be like this resurgence of like available knuckleheads and panheads, right? Well, the guys who bought the FXRs originally, like, that time is coming, for sure. That, sadly, it's part of nature that people die, and the kids don't want them. Yeah. You know what I mean? That motorcycle that's been in the way for however many years in the garage or whatever, and it just goes to show, man, they're out there for sure. And like, as the hunt is, at least half of the fun. You know what I mean? Finding, especially for me, like having specific models that I am interested in. Another thing in the book that I will mention is that, like, I have the production numbers for all the FXRs. So down to the color, down to how many were made per year, per model, and like I've been on the hunt. You know what I mean? Like nationwide.
How many FXRs in total do you think that they made over the course of the years, from the 82 to the R4? You know what I mean?
Man, so I haven't tallied that yet. I do have other, other like lists, if you will, of all the models made, like the rarest models, and production numbers of colorways, let's say under 200, right? Or under 10 made. Yeah. And there's an abundance of those, right? So I don't have that actual number, but I will say that there was a lot of FXRs that were made, in the sense that, like, we don't see that many, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And so as for the rare ones, generally speaking, now this is just my personal opinion or what have you. So 1/3, I would say, of FXRs are original paint, original, like, good condition, right? So you figure, we'll break that down. It goes 1/3 of them were wrecked, right? Another 1/3 of them were just painted over, whether it be, someone got a factory yellow bike and they're like, all his friends were giving him a hard time riding a fucking Sunflower around, and they had to paint it. So those got painted, and then that leaves 1/3 of the bikes that are original paint, right? So, and that is obviously scaled. Let's say a black bike. Black bikes got painted less, painted over less, because dudes want black bikes. You know what I mean? So that's going to get painted over a lot less than, say, a pink bike from the factory, which, yes, there were pink bikes from the factory. Harley Davidson, the styling department and marketing department got together and said, hey, we're going to set aside production and have 3 of these lowriders painted
Yeah.
magenta with a lime green stripe. Why? Like it's insane to me that a huge production company
Yeah.
would set aside and say, "Hey, let's set aside 3 of these bikes, 4 of these bikes, and 2 of these bikes, and we're going to paint them this weird color."
Yeah.
Right? And it's astonishing to me. So let's say that, like, for example, my convertible is one of 9, right? So out of that, let's say that 3 are still around of the convertible in that paint, right? It is like a purplish, like eggplant color.
Mm-hmm.
So people probably didn't want that. You know what I mean? You get a dude from wherever that works a blue collar job, and he can't go around his buddies riding a fucking purple bike.
Yeah.
So that thing got painted over. So that's just, like I said, my personal opinion or analysis on it. But yeah, there's definitely rare bikes out there. They are indeed rare.
Yeah.
I've been searching for years since I've had this information, and I found my one bike. I found a couple others, but they weren't clean enough to the point where I was like, I'm gonna pull the trigger on this one or that one.
That's crazy. I didn't know they had like the 1 of 10 models. I know about the Liberty Edition, the Lowrider Anniversary Edition.
Yep.
The R
so like
2, 3, and 4. 83 RT is obviously a rare bike, right? Or kind of, or something.
Well, and really, like, my gauge of rare is different than everyone else's gauge of rare because I actually have the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So, but those limited editions were seen as rare. They were sold as rare, right? So if I was a dealer and I was like, hey, there's this Liberty edition, like, look, this is a special edition. There was only so many made. Well, you as a buyer is going to buy that for that paint set and be like, dude, this is limited edition. I'm going to take care of this thing. I'm going to keep it together, either all original or whatever. You know what I mean? Either way, I'm not going to paint over this tin set, right?
So I did that.
I know you did.
I fucking hate myself so bad for it.
That's kind of the reason why I brought it up. But
I tried to find another set, but I tried, but I didn't try hard enough. Let's just be like that.
Yeah.
So,
but that happens. You know what I mean? Like, so those bikes were sold as special editions. So those bikes we see more of, I would say, in original condition.
Yeah.
Maybe not original like seat and exhaust, because that gets changed, right out of the gate.
Yeah.
But the general feel of the bike would probably be more original than, let's say, run of the mill, if you will, a base model bike. You know what I mean? A base model FXR that's painted a candy magenta, right? So that candy magenta bike, someone will buy it and be like, oh, it's got the same decal as everything, like there's nothing special about it, so I'm going to paint over it. I want it black. I want it black with flames or whatever. And so there are limited editions that were sold, but they were marketed as such, I would say. And those, I feel like the RDs. How many RDs do we see? With them being quote unquote rare.
I feel like I see a bunch of them.
They are rare in the sense that they were only 1 year made. There was a limited, amount of colors. The general colors were the slate blue or the slate gray and blue, the blackberry blue, which was like a really dark blue, almost looks black with a blue pinstripe, and then the burgundy and slate gray, right? Those are the ones that you see. And so those were sold as a grand touring. So that's like the top of the line dresser, all the bells and whistles. You got a radio, you got lowers, you got a tour pack that came with it. You got, the chrome here and there. It's, the only model that came with floorboards from the factory other than the FXRPs.
Yeah.
Like those were kept together, and we see a lot of them. For how rare they are, we see a lot of them. Yeah. In original condition. But the other ones are, it's crazy how the abundance of weird colors that were made are, and I'll just throw this number out there just so that way the listeners can get kind of a feel of it. The models and colors of, let's say my bike, for example, the Rich Candy Wild Cherry in convertible, was less than 10 made of
Mm-hmm.
1991.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's over 250 combinations that were made less than 10, right?
Yeah.
Throughout the years. Over 250 different models, different years, different colors that were made less than 10. Less than 10 units made. So like it's crazy that we don't see more of those obscure kind of odd colors out there. But it's the proof's in the pudding, like the production numbers, they don't lie, they're
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
They were just either painted over or wrecked or whatever. So
Yeah, I don't know. For me as a
and it's
painter, as a customizer, it's hard to. I do appreciate factory paint jobs. Like I said, I really every day I try not to think about that anniversary lowrider that I painted over, because it's one of my most favorite paint jobs that came from the factory now. Like I love that paint set. It's so fucking cool
Yep.
looking, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, for me, the other thing is it's custom paint is my business, so
No, that's
it's
literally
hard.
what you do. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? And if the customer brings you a set and says, "Hey, paint over this," that's you did at least due diligence in speaking with people and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna paint over this." Like last ditch effort. Like I'm gonna paint over it. Someone speak up or whatever. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Whatever level you did.
Well, one of the biggest things that was scary for me is that like some FXR tanks are fucked up on the inside,
Oh,
right?
totally.
And
Yep.
so if I was to trade this customer's tin set with another dude's who has, who just body worked this tin set and it had crushed in tank and it's rusted on the inside, I'd be
Yeah.
in a
The
really
liners.
fucked
The liners
position
gone.
with the customer. So I hate it, man. I hate that it happened because dude, it's so pretty, and it had
Yeah.
the emblems on the side. I tried to get them off without fucking them up. Cracked the glass.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's
No, totally. Yeah, I
sucks.
worked. Believe me, dude. I worked in a body shop for years, and it was like, trying to save those emblems, because you either can't find them or whatever.
Yeah,
It's difficult, especially when that adhesive has been on there for
yeah,
20
20
plus
years.
years or
Yeah,
whatever,
it's wild.
baking in the sun. But yeah, man. If I could put one like message out there, and not even for me personally, but as like for our future,
Hmm.
if you have an OG tin set with OG paint. Now this may not apply for baggers and recent models, but those older models that you guys have, save that factory paint, man. Like there's guys, for in the future, there's going to be guys that are going to be nerding out on that and they're going to want it.
Yeah,
Put it up, on my page, or if you have a diner or whatever, throw it on FXR and Dyna Parts Trader. And I really feel a necessity to kind of save that stuff just because the numbers are already kind of low for the
hmm,
factory paint, and they're just going to keep getting lower. You know what I
yeah,
mean? There's no way for them to go up.
yeah,
So they're
exactly.
going to stay the same or go lower. And
Yeah,
obviously it's going to drop with people, wanting custom paint or whatever. And it sometimes there may be a necessity, if a factory paint job, the tank's fucked up, well, you're not going to save the front and rear fender because the tank's fucked up. You might as well paint all of it.
hmm,
And so I get it from working in that industry. I understand, the need to paint over parts at times, but if you can, I would say, do your due diligence, throw it out there for a trade. Because there are guys, like me that nerd out on this stuff and, search high and low, you
yeah,
know, and it could be some weird, some, run of the mill, regular looking tank, but it's got different pinstripes on it, and someone else has, the matching tank and front fender, and they're looking for that rear fender, and
yeah,
you're gonna paint over it. Like, just throw it out there. The worst thing that happens, no one reaches out to you, and you can paint over it. But
yeah,
in my mind, if there's one thing that I can really, put the message out for, I would say that would be it.
yeah.
At least for not only our current community but the future too.
Yeah, I mean, there's bagger tin sets too. Like I want to say '08 was the anniversary year, and of course, '03 anniversary year. There's
Yep.
some nice. There's a couple paint sets, the CVOs, those are worth a
Yeah.
lot of money now. You know, like a skunk CVO from 2012, dude.
That was the black and white one.
Yeah, the Road Glide.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's actually 2012 is kind of revered bagger wise as the best year for the CVO paint jobs, as opposed to the new ones now are pretty dope. But back then, like they had an orange one, they had a root beer one, they had the black and white one, they had like a greenish color one. Like they had some really killers, you know.
Yeah. With the bar and shield little tape,
Yep.
that's inlaid in there and
Yeah,
stuff
and the
like that.
O3s. Yeah, that was O3s that did that. But what
Yeah.
they do special things, man. It's really hard to match the colors. You know, some painter might be listening and go, "Oh, you're a fucking nerd. It's easy." But I don't match colors for a living. I make colors for a living. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no,
So,
totally. Yeah. And there's a big difference between, like, if there are guys out there working in body shops, there's a huge difference in like body collision, like,
yeah,
a collision shop than a custom shop. Like for you, for example, you're working on a completely different skill set, in the sense that, like, what you're looking for is symmetry, and you're creating, right?
yeah,
So you're creating the left side of the tank to be symmetrical with the right side of the tank, and you're creating your own pattern, your own colors, your own everything.
yeah,
Which is a completely different skill set than someone who comes in with a factory paint job and like, hey, match this, but it's a CVO and that shit's not available. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, a lot of people don't know that, like, maybe the newer stuff, the Harley colors can be obtained,
yeah.
but they're proprietary, man. Like, it's not like you could just go down to PPG or DuPont, or I don't know who's in the game now, but you can't just go there and be like, oh, hey, I have this '08 Road Glide and I need this color. It's not that easy.
Yeah, a lot of factory colors are hard. And I've said this many times on the podcast, but the way Harley's done it over the years, because a lot of people have it's been a huge multi-million-dollar industry nationwide for people to repair wrecked Harley tins. So it used to be able, if you look at the color codes released by Harley, which Harley uses PPG to my knowledge, because they're the color codes that everything's in.
Right.
As like 90 all the way up to 2012, you might get one color every 5 years that is like a special order that you can't just mix, right? So then 2010 hits and there's like two colors that you have to special mix. And then 12 hits,
Right.
there's four colors. And then now there's like the majority of the colors you can't mix, but there's two or three you can, right?
Yeah.
So it killed the
Yep.
repair industry, because it's like such a hard time to get all the paints and things like that. It's not worth it. If a dude hits me up and wants to do a
Right.
helmet, but he wants to match his factory Harley, we charge $1,500 minimum to paint your helmet. But if I've got $800 in colors, because you got to be a nerd about it, you got a $3,000 helmet down, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you're spraying. You're test spraying. A test panel probably 6 times before you get it. Completely perfect. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I don't know. I try to stay away from it. I got a dude right now that has a white and blue Hayabusa that is blowing me up for a paint job, and he wanted to do a Kobe tribute helmet, and I'm down to do a Kobe tribute helmet. But he
Right.
wants me to do it in white and blue, colors of his Hayabusa from the factory. And I don't know how many times I've said, dude, I'm not interested in doing it in those colors. And I guess he's dumbfounded that I'm telling him I don't want to take his money, but I don't want to do that job in those colors. Like it's not, I might only get a chance to do one Kobe Bryant tribute helmet, and it's not going to be on a blue and white fucking Hayabusa paint job. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And that's probably the educated I don't even know, like the educated person in you that knows that how difficult that would be to perfectly match whatever year Hayabusa. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So without having the fairings here, because he's not going to ship the fairings from Boston. The other thing is, it kind of goes along with what you were saying about the with the rarity of the paint and the numbers and the sets and how, I started thinking about the helmets we did when I started realizing how valuable West Coast Choppers parts were. Now that they're not made anymore, now that, that dude's built a name for himself. I don't know that I'll ever build that kind of name. I don't think I will, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you never know, man.
The way I look at it is the helmets are probably the one thing that's never that's going to be out there with my name on it, that are never pretty much going to get repainted.
Yep. If anything, be hung up or put on
Yeah.
a shelf or whatever.
Yeah, and so like
Yeah.
maybe in 20 or 30 years, like you'll be at a swap meet somewhere and there'll be an old Simpson helmet chipped up with my paint job on it. You
Yeah.
know, and you know maybe that
What?
guy passed away and gave it to his kid. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be the thing. So I'm kind of arrogantly setting myself up for that kind of legacy, if you will.
Yeah.
But no, I
Yeah.
want you know, anytime you do something, man, like when people value what you're doing, it makes you value what you do. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
So
And it puts you back in that spot of like trying to do the best that you can do.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Everything from customer service to the actual quality of work. You know.
I'm not the
Going
best
back
at
to
customer
that-
service, man. I'm not. I just don't have time, man.
Yeah.
I don't
See,
have
I
time
don't
to
know.
sit on the phone
I
all
mentioned
day.
earlier. I worked in a grocery store and they pushed that hard, dude. And I think it was like literally ingrained from me from like 14 years old.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll be at my job now and be like, oh, I say hi to everyone, ask them how they're doing, stuff like that. But yeah, so going back to the factory paint stuff, in 1990, you're saying all those paint codes after 90 are essentially available.
Yeah.
Okay, so prior to that,
I can't tell you every one because I don't know every color that was made in the years.
Right.
But on
In general.
the list that I get from Harley to PPG then I have like birch white, luxury red, blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
right,
Those
Yeah.
kind of things.
right, and so those so it was 89 is when they switched, and those can. At least to my knowledge, they don't translate to anything. They don't translate. I don't know if the codes after 1990 are also like Harley Davidson codes, right?
Yeah.
And those might translate to something if you put it into, your program or whatever and say, okay.
Well, do you think it has anything to do with the 90 is around the time they switched from shooting enamel, or was it enamel or lacquer paint?
So I'm not positive.
I'm not positive either, and I should be because I'm a painter. But
Yeah,
I was watching Ninja Turtles at the time.
I'm not positive on that like material switch on that year. But I do know that, like, dude, I nerd out on like literature. I have all the friggin' painted parts catalog and paint codes and all that stuff. And I know that my stuff goes from up to 89, right?
Okay.
But you give that paint code to any painter and they're like, cool, this does me no good.
Yeah.
Like it's paint number 843-0 or -89 does me zero. It's not in any database except for Harley's.
Fortunately, most paint stores have the ability to take pictures with a computerized camera. And so as long as you have a good flat surface that's still in good intact paint, you can get pretty close. And the thing about like a lot of the paints from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, other than Murano pearls, which are really rare and not around much anymore, all those paints are very simplistic and very easy to kind of create. There's no crazy metallic flopping things that were really taking place back in the 80s versus like one of the first things that happened in the custom paint industry was when chameleon became a thing. You know that back in the day, that Mystic Cobra, you had to do some crazy shit, like go to the dealership and get this, and you could only have so much. Like they were trying to keep that chameleon paint on the wraps, you know?
Totally.
And then when they finally started releasing it and you could get it through House of Color and stuff, you'd buy like a fucking vial of that shit for $200 or $300. I mean, it went a ways, but it wouldn't do a whole car, you know?
Right.
So
yeah, and so that's been true. Just to speak on like kind of the history, like even back in the day, like so talking with Louis Netz, like he was one of the guys that that informed me that all of those, even like the tank art or the decals, all of those letters are literally 17 different letters, and that's all that exists. So if you wanted, let's say to match, I don't even know, like a 2001 FX DXT, a T Sport, decal, for example, and you wanted to say your own name, right? So Fast Life fucking Garage. It doesn't exist. You can't find that in any font. You can't find it in any like Adobe, no other database except for those. And that's one thing that I do know that Harley prided itself on having that proprietary, and that's true for as far as I know, every decal. That starting in probably '83, I want to say.
Yeah.
And so they definitely keep their stuff super close. They want to have it proprietary for a certain reason, just like I don't know, any it's a smart businessing move or business move on their end,
Yeah.
because they have to come to you, right?
Yeah.
Or you have to go to them to get whatever it is that you want. Now, obviously, technology's changed, and you can, go on whatever font site and try to get something as close as possible, and
Yeah.
people recreate stuff. But that's definitely, it's not a mistake. It's, like they did that intentionally to keep stuff in their hands, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
To keep it so you had to go to them to get their paint. If you dropped your bike, or when it was idling, or wrecked it completely, like you had to go to them to get the paint, which is smart, dude.
That's what they're doing now. They're trying to keep as much shit in house as possible, and they want you to replace the part over painting the part. If you get a scratch in a bag, and honestly, man, nowadays, like a saddlebag is cheaper to replace the saddlebag than to repaint it if you get a scratch in it.
But it's tough, and I know for you being in the custom world, like if someone wants stretched bags and they don't have a certain, the bag or whatever that they want, or let's say you're doing a paint job for someone who does wheelies on a bagger, right? They can't run stock bags, and so you need to match that paint. So now you have to buy the paint, because otherwise, Harley, I'm sure, would rather sell you.
So Harley does sell paint, and I usually buy paint from them because you get more quantity of paint for the price than you do for PPG. So for PPG, say if it's a 3-stage, base coat and a pearl, it'll be $250 for a pint of each color. So you're looking at $500 for a pint of it. When Harley is about $150 for a quart, right?
Right.
So I can go
but
get.
But at the same time, like let's say that you're buying that pint, with it being water based, it doesn't last nearly as long as it was
water based is
lacquer.
Water based is just kind of that's kind of even California is not completely water based. It's just low VOC. So like most of us in the country that paint motorcycles are still on regular base coat, clear coat. Usually just collision centers who are doing high production volume do water-based paints nowadays.
Right, but like let's say the candies, right? You could have a jar or a can of candy from back in 1980, and as long as it was sealed and wasn't opened, like that candy's still good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, opposed to now, if you bought that same can of paint today, a candy, opened it up, or not opened it up, and opened it up, 20 years, who's to say that it's not, not going to go bad?
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I mean, I've got cans of paint down there that's been open. It's been on my shelf for fucking 5, 6, 7 years that, you come and crack it open, put a little bit of reducer in it, and it brings it all back to life. But, I don't know, man. Like it's weird. The paint thing, I don't think that the paint industry has very long to go before it's kind of gonna. It's kind of like the housing bubble, right? Where everybody's, insurance companies have a chokehold on the paint world, and the paint world is basically funded through collision. Collision is where most paint companies make all their money.
Absolutely.
And their prices keep going up. The cost of doing paint to have a paint business is not a cheap business to get into. I mean, if you're trying to be in the city and have a nice thing, you're looking at $100,000 buy into a business that, in order to do that kind of production and make it back quickly, you have to have a couple more $100,000 in the bank to fund a staff and get the work in, blah, blah, blah. Well, every year paint companies put an increase on all their products, and it's usually 5%, but that 5% adds up over 5 years, and now it's 25% more. And so, unfortunately, when people talk about a bagger paint job, a factory bagger paint job from us that looks like our helmets, and I tell them it's $10,000, they flip out. Oh, well, it's not a stretched out bagger. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's going to cost me $2,500 to buy all the paint materials to paint your bike. Then I'm going to spend a lot of time and detail on this thing. And as a business, I have to do 2 of those bikes to stay in business a month.
Right.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? So it's a weird place that where it's like what's deemed as super expensive, it really isn't when you're in this business. And I can't just raise my prices to, okay, well, it looks like we're charging 15 grand for baggers now. Because there's a million dudes out there that are pretty solid, decent painters that paint on the side. You know, they work for a collision center and then they go home and they lay some graphics and paint. And those dudes are going to do it cheap because they don't live by the paint. That paint is beer money for them, right? Fortunately, I don't really have to compete with those guys, but I know that a lot of people that are trying to run legitimate businesses deal with that. It's the same thing for like mechanic shops. You know, you start a mechanic shop like Jessup's and that overhead and that all that buy-in, and then you got some dude in his garage, you know, just kind of like starting. And I'm not trying to knock that dude in the garage because we've all been that guy, you know. Okay. But he's a threat. If he's really good, he's a huge threat to a big business, you know. Yeah. It's weird, man. It's because I built my 2 most memorable bikes that I've ever built of my own. I built in the same garage. My fucking white bagger that I rode all over the country and my gold FXR were built in the same garage. Yeah. The one was started at the beginning of the Fast Life garage, and the other one was started at the end of me living in that house as the Fast Life garage, you know? Yeah. And but now, you know, I mean, I've got this shop and we've built all the things onto it, but I started in the garage, you know? Yeah.
And as for the like I guess creative process, would you if you had whatever bike you were going to paint today, right? Because I know for me, like I build a bike in my head daily. Yeah, you know, I do too. It'll change from week to week.
Dude, I'm on a Lowrider S kick right now.
Dude, what are you on?
I want a Lowrider S, a new one.
Yeah, yeah. Badly. And, dude, they look like a solid bike. Yeah. You know what I mean? I have heard stuff about the M8 and how like it feels like not quite like, you know, the older bikes or whatnot. I haven't ridden an FXRS. I literally haven't rode a bike later than 2000, my FXR4 in years. You know what I mean? But if you were to paint a bike today, what colors are you feeling right now? I know that now let's put some rules on it. Yeah. Because I know that you like the gray with the purple. No purple pinstripes and no silver is allowed.
You know, I really like, you know, like say that, you know, I like the same color schemes, right? So, you know, like some of the FXRs would have like the brighter candy red, the more maroon, darker cherry candy red, or the blues, it would be the brighter and the darker blues. I've always been more keen.
For the people that aren't super knowledge based on paint, which is essentially like a charcoal gray and a bright silver with the same amount of candy over both.
Exactly what I do whenever I shoot it. But those kind of schemes where it's all in the same color family have always rendered more of a classic look to me, to where more classy. I can't even say that. More. It's kind of like that's the kind of shit you would expect on like a BMW, right? And you would expect a wild, crazy neons and crazy colors on a Kia Rio, you know?
Right.
Yep. Like it's just one of those deals, you know what I mean? So I like color schemes that are all kind of the same colors but different shades but create depth. And sometimes you'll come in with a contrasting color that makes everything pop. Like, I mean, I know where you said I can't do gray, but like I'm about to redo my bike for this year, and I'm going with like a couple shades of gray and then a color pop. So, you know, like a black and white photo, right?
Okay.
Regular black and white photo. And then say it's a picture of a chick, right? And then her lips are red. That color pop is so strong. I love that vibe in paint jobs. You know what I mean? Yeah. That small color pop.
As you know, you can get that from anything. Like if you look at a color wheel, like I don't know, I'm not a super artistic person, but I did take art in high school, which makes me certified. And I watched a couple videos on YouTube.
There you go.
And if you look at the color wheel, like you can go directly across and get a contrasting color.
Yeah.
And that's one, like seriously, that's one of the things that like in Harley paint jobs they're really good at. capturing, both contrasting and accentuating near colors to the base paint, right?
Yeah. So right now, one of the reasons why we went with that champagne color for our personal flake was
Yeah.
there's this paint set from an FXR that's the champagne color with the candy red and it has a baby blue pinstripe on it. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay, so start over again.
It's got
'cause
like
you
a
broke up.
champagne kind of color as like the say
Okay.
on the tank. It's got like a champagne
Okay.
color window, and then it's like a
Yep.
candyish red color around it, and then it has like a blue pinstripe. I saw it. It might not be an FXR, but it's a Harley one
Okay.
because it was all Harley logo and everything. But that color
Okay.
combination right there, like I fucking love it. That's why Jessup's helmet I did for him, same colors.
Right.
Candy red, that champagne color, which I didn't have the flake out yet, but it was a champagne color. And then we came in with the blue highlight pop, and I fucking love it, man. You know, I like that shit that don't go there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and like me, like, dude, when I look at bikes and find something that really catches my eye, it's the obscure stuff. It's not the stuff that you see every day. You know, it's not the black bike with the red and orange pinstripe.
Yeah.
Although that is fucking classic Harley Davidson. Like, there's no mistaking when you see any bike with a black base, right? All black with a red and orange pinstripe, you know it's a Harley.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, I just did this one Fat Bob and we did like black, gray, orange paint job on it, and dude, it's just fucking, it's speaking to my soul. So I have a new helmet from Simpson they haven't released right here that I champagned the whole thing, but I'm not feeling it. So I want to do that black, red, or that black, orange, and gray and silver look.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna repaint that helmet. So, but yeah, dude, I feel you, man. Like some colors just like draw you back, like, and that's one thing about colors, man. Like it's always hard because. You know what the common thing everybody says when they talk to their painter? I want to be different, right? Mm-hmm. But there's no different, man. Like you could find some colors in the House of Color book in the car manufacturing world that are different, but they might not have the same appeal. They don't do the same thing to you as that candy red does when you see it. And there's a reason. There's a reason why those colors are so popular because they do something to you. You see them with chrome or blacked out, and it just fucking like art, it speaks to you, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes.
And so from Harley Davidson, the numbers, at least let's say 2008, 40% of them were black. 40%. Another 20% was red, and another 20% was blue. Now that could have, two tones, different shades, stuff like that. But that's a huge body of black, blue, and red bikes.
Yeah.
And all across all of Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
Right. And so what is that other 10 to 20%? You know what I mean? Like depending on where the sliding scale is, like it's not a huge number, but that's what Harley was geared to do when they set out to make these weird colors, is to give the customer, the consumer, a real sense of like individualism, right? Mm-hmm. And so like they said it, like Louis Netz himself said, when you need to give the buyer a hard on when he comes in. Like they could buy any motorcycle, they don't even have to buy a motorcycle, right? Mm-hmm. A motorcycle is not a necessity, it's a luxury, right? Yeah. And I understand that some people may need a motorcycle because they can't afford a car or whatever.
It's just a support animal.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like a comfort sheep, right? Yeah. So so no one needs a motorcycle. So when they walk into the showroom floor, they need something that screams to them, right? Yeah. So it's also their words that like form follows function, but it moves to an emotion, right? Yeah. So that's not a direct quote because I can't remember it exactly, but like that is the feel, right? That's what Harley Davidson is after. They need to move the soul, right? And so if there's a obscure color that you walk on the floor and you're like, ooh, I like the new Lowrider S.
Yeah.
But everyone has the black one. right?
Yeah.
Everyone has the black one with the gold lettering or whatever, but this silver one is actually tight because I don't see that many of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if like there's
Yeah.
less made or whatever, just as an example.
It's an expensive.
But
It's costs more to get it. It's like
yeah,
$400 more. So
yeah, so it's like a premium color, as you,
yeah.
if you will, you know. And so that's what the consumer is going to look at. Like, no one wants to pull up to bike night. I mean, I've said this numerous times as like a joke, but oh, cool, you have a black Dyna? No way, dude! Like, you're at bike night with a black Dyna, and no offense to a black Dyna, but fuck, man, all the Dynas are black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and like that's what guys want. That's what guys feel, you know.
Yeah.
But there's other guys, like for me, for example, like I said, I'm outlandish. I want my bike to stand out. I don't want it to be the run of the mill. I want it to be something that, you know, speaks to me, number one. And if you don't like it, I don't care. You don't have to look at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
like
not
it's in my garage, not yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, there's definitely like something that has spoke to me recently, like makes me feel like passionate is those old 90s paint jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like people like that one Oliver just raffled off.
Yeah.
Not the most recent one, because those colors are a little like, they're not real poppy to me. Like that it has a full like 70s kind of feel with the like,
Yeah.
you know, the stripes going down and then like a V shape in the triangle.
Yeah.
But that red one that he raffled off, the roller beforehand, so that was actually done by Perowitz. I talked to him about it, and he did it for the guy that runs drag back in the 90s. And that thing probably sat on the showroom floor for years as a display bike. But that right there, that bright red, frame painted, everything.
Yeah.
And those bright colors, contrasting colors, like that at this point in time right now, like that's what speaks to me.
I see what you're saying. Like that vibe is totally like that. It reminds me of those Chevy trucks with the heartbeat of America kind of stickers on the back, and like the ground effects.
A lot of people bag on like mini trucks and like trucking magazines back in the early 90s, but dude, that's my jam, dude. Like I love that stuff, I mean, obviously factory paint is always a favorite of mine, but that style right there is definitely I don't know if it's because I grew up looking at those magazines and being like, oh, that thing's cool or whatever, but
it's the same thing whenever, like when I first got into like other bikes other than baggers and the shit I came before, I used to clown on all the people that were doing those shitty chopper flames. You know what I mean? And it wasn't, I still don't like them, but my buddy Tim O'Keefe kind of helped me understand it. And there is this like nerding out of doing things the way it was done back then. And I kind of get that. But, you understand, like when I got into custom paint, like flame jobs have always been popular. They kind of come and go, but they never go. They really don't. They're always there. You can never not look at a flame job and go, oh, it's pretty cool. It just is a cool fucking thing. And I spent so much of my life in early years painting, learning how to lay out flames cleanly, evenly, nicely, to where it has a long wispy flow or a fat kind of, like different vibes. And then you got these fucking wire string fucking wormy crab claws that everybody's nerding out on, and I just can't get behind it. I've trained myself to be a professional at that. I'm not going to distrain myself to learn how to do something that's kind of already had its run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That style, would it be cool? Would that Dave Perowitz paint job that I just looked at on the cut rates page, would it be cool if I did that now though? Or is it cool because it was done in the 90s and that's their style?
Fuck, I don't know, man. Like for me, it's cool. Like I was literally, so I interviewed Perowitz for the book, like I said, and I literally hit him up. I was like, hey man, I'm kind of interested in having you do one of those, those paint jobs that you did back in the day. You know what I mean? And does that emotion come from the fact that he's painting it, or the fact that like it looks good? You know what I mean? Like,
I would love to have one. I would love to have anything painted by Perowitz just to have. So I see that, but just like you take that picture and you walk into your local custom paint shop, if you have one, and be like, hey, I want this. Most people are going to do that, but I mean, I probably would turn it down because I'd be like, man, that's not really my thing, But
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if I would
Yeah.
value it. You know what I
And,
mean?
and everything. I want to come back to the '90s stuff coming back, but the flames, dude. You're speaking my language because, as Mike knows, like I don't want to use I don't want to use the word Nazi, but dude, I'm super particular on my flames. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I've had flamed bikes, I've had my 2004 Silverado was dropped 5.6 drop,
Yeah.
fucking flamed, ghost flames all down the all down the hood, all down the side. Like that's my jam,
Yeah.
and it has been, and there's definitely a certain style of flames that I like. So my buddy in the Bay Area, his name's Dustin. He's one of the guys that like I those are the flames. Those
Yeah.
like if I were to have a flame bike, like that's my style, right?
Yeah.
So on the bike that Mike just chopped for Kevin,
Yeah.
right? He's having a paint shop do the paint or whatever with flames, and like Mike knows that I'm super particular on what I think looks good and what doesn't look good, right? And so I told him, I was like, have him, maybe send you pictures, but at the same time, I know from a painter standpoint, like those flames are laid out and that's it. Like
Yeah.
you don't get a say, you don't get an option, you don't get you don't, for him to even send it to the customer, you're already fucking up because
Yeah.
they're going to have opinions, and guess what? You have to rip all that stuff off.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I actually wanted to paint that bike for the dude, and even the crackhead ass price compared to my normal prices that I gave to him was not enough. Low, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the main reason why I
Kinda
wanted
like-
to paint it is because it was like one of Mike's first bikes he ever did for a customer, and like that
Right.
sentimental value of doing a bike that Mike built, in a sense, was something I want to be a part of. That to me, going on like another tangent here, like that's something that I've had a lot of conversations off the podcast with about, like people talking about real success. And me, I'm not rich at all. I fucking live paint job to paint job, but success to me now, as I'm starting to understand, is being able to like really turn down a lot of things that I don't want to do, but still like realize what I do want to do. I do want to do stuff for people that I value them in their friendships or their role in the industry or the work they do. And I want to work with people like that more. You know what I mean? And so to me, I feel fortunate that they would even consider me in a lot of ways. Like I've said 100 times on here, being able to do anything for Covington Customs is a huge, it's a huge like bucket list for me as a painter. You know what I mean? Because they've always put out top-notch work forever. And then going down the list, like, man, one day maybe I'll get lucky to do something for Jesse James. Maybe I'll get lucky to do something for Oliver at the Cut Rate. I'm supposed to be doing something for Brian from TPJ. I want to do those type of projects for people that, that I fucking respect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so.
No, yeah. And so, and going back to the prices, like obviously prices, like the dude's a blue collar guy. You know what I mean? And I know that most motorcycle riders are blue collar, right? But that income level fluctuates. I know that you paint a lot of bikes from California per se, right?
Yeah.
For example. And so like the pay out here is more, but at the same time the cost of living is more too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So someone might have more cash or less cash or whatever. But yeah, I totally feel the the emotion that you have of trying to do something for the people that you look up to. You know what I mean? Like people in the industry that I look up to, will hit me up and be like, "Hey man, do you know where I could find, a battery hold down?" Like, I can't find one. You know what I mean? I'm like, "Whoa, dude, you're hitting me up." Like, like all these dudes that I look up to are hitting me up like, "Hey man, I need an in search of," or "Hey, can you sell this?" Like, whatever
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel it for sure. Now getting back to the 90s paint stuff, everything comes back around, I feel like. I mean, look at like fucking bell bottoms were hot again in, the early 2000s or whatever. Like that stuff does come back in the sense that it's retro, but for us, like in the motorcycle game, like you can't recreate a Arlen S strut. You know what I mean? Like it's either original or it's not. That's just that's the stuff that I nerd out on.
There's a lot of perspective in that statement that things come back around, because they do come around, but they're never as big as they were the first time. If that makes
And they're
sense.
never the same either.
Yeah.
Right?
So the
For me,
vintage 70s vibe has been around with the vintage chopper movement and the vintage everything, you know, that's kind of, you know, for lack of a better term, that's been the makeup of a traditional hipster, is like all my shit's from the 70s. My van, my clothing style, my look, the magazines on my coffee table, the bike I ride.
right.
You know what I mean? But that's still a small population of people versus, you know, but it's a style, man. Like, you know, I don't see a lot of shag green carpet going in people's houses. That shit was popular.
No, for sure. But the furniture is coming back,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
So like,
it's a handmade thing though, man. Like, it's not most furniture. Everybody knows that a lot of things built in the old days was built with a much more quality. It's once the 80s hit and things became, when our population in the world started to get bigger and bigger, and corporations had to make things, they had to sell you something that they were going to resell you again in a couple of years, because if there's 400, let's just say there's 5 manufacturers of refrigerators and yours lasts you 10 years, somebody's going out of
you're
business.
not buying another refrigerator.
Yeah.
No, totally. Now, I think that it's a little bit different. So the stuff that, like, let's say that, like, for my bike, for example, I put, you know, period correct. I'm putting PM calipers on it, you know, like as period correct as I can, right? Now, a lot of stuff isn't available, and the other thing is that it's not going to be set up like the 90s, because in the 90s, everything was slammed to the ground, right? There was no fairing on it, you know, chromed out, or, you know, color matched wheels and shit like that. Like, it's not going to be the same, but I feel like there's definitely an influence that comes back around, in the sense that, like, you want to, me growing up looking at magazines, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing, you know, Arlen S bikes and being like, dude, that thing is sick. Like, even if it is laid out or whatever, like, and if I got that bike today, it'd be tough not to raise it up, because I want to ride the bike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It'd be tough. And would I be doing that bike a disservice? Would I be doing the builder a disservice, or, you know, something like that? Or, but at the end of the day, a motorcycle is made to be ridden.
For sure.
You know, like, at least in my book, it's made to be ridden. It could fucking look cool. It could be, you know, the coolest vintage model or whatever. But I can definitely appreciate both the nostalgic feel and the actual nostalgia. You know what I mean? Like, me, I'm into rare paint, rare factory stuff that there weren't many made of, right? And when that, I don't know if you followed that Mecum auction or whatever, where that green, I think it was a knucklehead. Dude, so there was, like, they had the paper trail back to when it was built, and it was a special order green bike, right? Green knucklehead, pre-war, whatever. And, like, just like, that bike sold for over $250,000.
Damn.
Like, thinking that that motorcycle is worth that, number one, is astonishing. Number two, that someone pre-ordered that, like, you know, special ordered that color, that motorcycle, and then it was received, and all the paper trail was along with it. You know what I mean? Like, how many, you've bought plenty of bikes in the past. How much documentation did you get with it?
Oh, I mean, other than, like,
the title, maybe the owner's manual, right?
Yeah, the owner's manual, and things so, like that. More shit to buy. Join Hog Chapter.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like, my CHP, for example, has the actual documentation that it was released from CHP to the next owner. Like, and I have that. It's on my toolbox with a magnet, fucking, you know, not displayed or anything, but, like, that means something to me. You know what I mean? Like, so I definitely feel that, like, the nostalgia feel of the 90s coming back, per se, like, I think that
well, there's a difference, but before you get too deep in it, there's a difference between something coming back and you just literally buying stuff that's already been made, and something coming back style-wise, and then people take their spin on that new creativity look. So, like, I would say the cut rate is one of the best at taking a genre or a style or a period and putting his take on that style modernized. To me, that's the ideal thing, because at the end of the day, I mean, take this how you will, but I think that a lot of people, I know myself, I'm more concerned about what I'm doing to help preserve the future of motorcycles. And I don't want people to look back in 15 years ago, what were these, everybody's loving the 70s choppers and the 60s choppers and the club style, or the club people that did all the culture and the history.
Yep.
And then now we're not making history. We're just trying to relive it. So
Right.
when we are the history, are we going to be the skipped over generation that never did shit, that we just tried to relive the old shit again?
Yeah, and that's why I said, like, I have the appreciation for actual nostalgia.
Yeah.
And then I have an appreciation for recreating that nostalgia,
Yeah,
just because
yeah.
that's what at this period in time, like this day today, because it changes every day, moves me right now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, someone just had an FXR that they're redoing. They painted it fucking bright blue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bright blue. He's got some like spun wheels on it, and he painted the innards blue, like the center face of it.
Yeah.
Of the wheels blue. Like, that's tight to me, man. Like,
Yeah.
he put paint splatters. He took apart the shocks, made the freaking, painted the struts with paint splatters and shit. Like, that's cool to me, because like when I grew up, like, that's the type of shit that I saw in magazines.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to be respected by all? Absolutely not. But for the nerds that are into that and are into the like making their motorcycle their own, whether other people like it or not, that's fucking cool to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's definitely that. I mean, you can't, none of us can build a bike that's going to appease all fucking planes of audience. I'm just throwing words out there. But yeah, nobody's going to fucking build a bike or do whatever that's going to make everybody happy, because we're all in our little tribalistic cliques,
Yeah.
And I think
even in a clique, like, let's say that you bought a bike from your buddy, that he's in the same clique, you guys think the same shit's cool, you're going to buy that bike and make it your own anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, everyone has their own taste, their own feel, their own emotion, and that could change. Like I said, multiple times in this podcast, like, my shit changes every day. Like, I'll see a bike and be like, ooh, how sick would it be to have a silver FXR, which you never see.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no straight silver FXRs with pinstripes. Like, how sick would it be to have that thing high and tight with a Nest fairing, chromed out, or not, or maybe a black drivetrain, like, maybe a pinstripe that, pops or not. Like, it's just,
just be black stripes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do like
gray
that.
And purple.
I do like the idea, and that's what I was saying, like with guys like Bondo and some of the other guys out there that were basically recreating the factory looking paint jobs with newer colors. I dig that shit. You know what I mean? It's cool to me. Dude,
Bondo he's a fucking wizard when it comes to that type of shit. Dude. Like, and so he's who painted my fairing to match my my 1 of 9 paint job.
Yeah.
And I brought down my front fender because it had the pinstripe, the color, or both pinstripes and the color. And I was like, hey man, this is what I need matched. And he's like, ooh, okay. He opens up the House of Color book. He's like, it looks like maybe like a galaxy. I can't remember the gray, but let's call it galaxy gray.
Yeah.
Looks like a galaxy gray with this candy over it. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But it looks a little bit more purplish. And he's like, well, if you lay down enough layer of candies, it gets that purplish hue.
Yeah.
And so we brought the book out into the sunlight, brought it back into the shade, out in the sunlight, looked at it, and dude, it matches perfectly. And I mean, working in a body shop, I can, you walk from the grocery store to your car and you could be like, that car's been repainted. That car's been repainted. You know what I mean? Like, the people who know. And dude, it's spot on.
Yeah.
Like, the pinstripe spot on, the color spot on. Like there's guys out there that, whether it be, from the collision side or the custom side, that's their niche. You know what I mean? Like, everyone has a niche, and I feel like Bondo's really good at matching, paint matching the colors and even the obscure colors. You know what I mean? The stuff that you don't see every day. Not the vivid black or the candy ruby red, for example. You know?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I try to direct people that want that stuff, because I think that he's a good. he's a master at those kind of things. And there's other painters out there that have styles that I think they're masters at. And, you know, there's definitely enough work to go around for all of us. And I can't do, I'm fucking, yeah, I don't know. I can't handle too much more than I already have. My helmet shit's gotten out of hand, man. It's crazy. And I want to do more bikes, but I have to keep the bikes at a minimum because of the time it sometimes takes to do a bike. And I don't want to, I know what it's like to not be able to ride, and I would rather only do bikes in the wintertime. That way I'm not holding anybody back. You know, if in a perfect world, that's what I would do. Paint gel. Yeah, in paint gel that I. Yeah. I didn't think I did. I've never put people in paint gel other than the fact that like projects tend to get held up not by me but by other things. And as a rule of thumb, I'm sitting here at work every day, and even though yours is next, if your shit ain't here, if we're waiting on, for instance, lowers still, I can't paint your whole bike. Therefore, next, got to go to the next one. Get it done. Well, now we're coming into the deadline for a bike I promised already. Your stuff just got here. Unfortunately, it's going to have to wait till after this bike gets done. So sometimes there's just it's a weird thing. And balancing jobs is a business in its own, man. It really is, you know. Totally. So
and having it your own personal life, you know. So I was talking about this with a buddy. Like, it's difficult to run a business and be the guy, right? Yeah. So I know that like a couple podcasts ago, you said that you had a guy that was coming in that might be working with you or something.
Well, I have an apprentice that's here to help, but he doesn't necessarily have the. He would be the best. He is the ideal employee for me, but. This dude owns a house. He owns a nicer car than me. He has more bikes than me. This dude's in a better position in life than I am financially. Right. I can't afford to pay him what he would be worth right now, but he's also a dude that understands that the game is to be sold, not told. So he's here working off and learning how to paint, and in the meantime helping me out quite a bit, a shit ton, and we're becoming pretty close friends in the same manner. But, you know, I just don't know if like the kind of money that comes through my shop and the kind of money this dude makes flipping bikes and flipping houses, it's not the same. He wants to learn how to paint a bike so that when he buys a bike and needs to fix something, he can do it himself versus, you know, having to pay a guy like me to do it. And he has the shop space and the time to do it. It's hard to find people that really want to learn. I mean, dude, my brother would have been like, I spent so much of my time basically treating my brother kind of like that kid that you're trying to teach to do basketball because I never made it. I'm trying to teach him how to do it. Right. And I mean, there's something like romantically awesome about sharing a business with a sibling and doing it together and being on the same page and growing it together and having his input and my input. And maybe it was mine at the beginning, but it evolved into ours because he started to pull his own weight and create his own identity within it. But I mean, probably just the way I am. I'm a very, I'm not the nicest person when it comes to the work that we do. You know, like when I say faggot on this podcast, that's a common word used in this shop when he does stupid shit. I'm like, dude, right. What the fuck, man? Like, you know, painting is pretty self-explanatory. Right. If you sand it and you dry it off, you know if you're done.
Yep.
Right. So if I got to come back and point it out at this after you've been doing it for 12 years, that pisses me off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that means that you're not taking.
It's like that in any job. Like you go to any job, and if your work wasn't done, right, you can expect the boss to come over and be like, "Hey, why wasn't this done correctly?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Or whatever. But I mean, so going back to the kind of like you being the guy and running the business. I mean, I've never run a business, but I could imagine that could be difficult because you have your expertise, right? And now you have to be a jack of all trades and be like, okay, now I run a business. Now I have to do the books. Now I have to, you know, do the customer service, the clientele, like all that stuff, and keep customers happy, communicate with the customer, like all that stuff. And I feel like, you know, as some of these shop owners, you know, mechanic even, like they could be great mechanics, but you have to have that business side, which is tough because in the community, we have, views on certain guys that like, oh, that guy's just out to make money. Oh, this guy's just out to make money. Or this guy's a great mechanic, but he can't run a fucking business, or vice versa. He runs a great business, but like, his mechanic work, like, oh, so-and-so got their bike done and it came back and, 300 miles in, it's got a head gasket leak because the shit wasn't torqued down correctly or whatever. You know what I mean? And it may not have even been that dude working on the bike. It may have been an employee, but I could imagine like all the different levels of stuff that, as a business owner, you have to deal with.
And you didn't even talk about some of the more main things nowadays. Nowadays, you have to be able to do the social media thing. You have to be able to promote and market. And, for like me, I had to, I've always been a fan of photography, but I've had to dive in deeper into photography to find a way to capture the work that I do here and make it more appealing over the next 100 painters that are just as badass, if not way more badass than I am,
Right.
And to me, like those kind of things separate yourself. So if you're a bike shop and you build bikes, the way you show the world those bikes means something. So if you're shooting it on a fucking Android phone, grow up and get an iPhone like an adult, for one.
I don't fuck with green bubbles, dude.
Yeah,
you got
exactly.
a green bubble, and I try to send you a GIF, like, and it gets sent back to me. I'm done, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you get straight text from now on.
Or anything like, maybe you're lucky enough to like know a photographer to come in and shoot some of your finished product or shoot some progress shots. That stuff means a lot, man. You could tell a difference when someone takes the time to shoot their shit in a very nice way. You know what I mean? And it's difficult. Yeah, and you are wearing a lot of hats, and we've been planning on kind of getting into more of an online store to sell a lot of things too. And I know at that point I'm going to have to be a lot more customer service oriented. Mm-hmm. But for the meantime, man, I already work usually 7 days a week, and usually at least 10 hours a day. If not, I mean, the thing is that like everything I do, I love doing. So it's really weird. It blends in, right? So I might work only 6 hours in a day, but then I'll go home and I'll draw for 6 hours. Right. So I'm like, that's technically still work. Yeah. Or, I might be in here getting fucking shit faced on a podcast from, 8 p.m. till 12 p.m. like I am right now. It's fun, but it's still work. I mean, I could be at home with my wife right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's those kind of things.
And I mean, going back to like the photography stuff, like, so last paper that I wrote was literally probably junior year in high school. Mm-hmm. Like, so going back to this book, like I'm literally learning fucking spreadsheets, right?
Yeah.
I've never messed with spreadsheets. So now, number one, I had to download Word. That shows you like how on my computer download Microsoft Word. Yeah. Because on the MacBooks it doesn't come on it. You got to fucking pay for it.
Well, you use Pages on MacBook.
Yeah. So, so like all these steps of like going through everything, trying to do the best that I can, put out a quality product, right? So, doing all the research, I'm into, right? Writing it down, I'm into, because it's the passion project.
Yeah.
Now, as for the like writing skills, like, dude, I've taken like online, not classes, but like tutorials on what a foreword is, what an introduction is, what a preface is.
I need
like,
to do that, yeah.
Dude, I'm adulting right now. Like, I don't, it may not feel like I'm adulting, but I'm adulting in the sense that like, when you go to school, you learn math or whatever, and you're like, I'm never going to use this. And then you use it some random spot. You're like, damn, I fucking knocked that out of the park.
I totally used the Pythagorean theorem once within the last year.
Or I got to look this up on YouTube and learn how to fucking, cross multiply or whatever. So, speaking of that, like tomorrow I'm going to shoot, probably like 12 FXRs, mm-hmm. right? And so I haven't shot bikes. I went out and, and messed with my digital camera. It's a high quality digital camera, like a Canon or something. And I used to be into quality photos and photography. I used to ride BMX, and like I was the guy with the camera. And so I learned by necessity. You know, I had Photoshop CS5 or whatever that my buddy bootlegged for me, burned me a copy, and gave it to me, and like I learned all that. But now, like those skills have been lost, and I'm trying to learn and re-gravitate back to that, just so that way I can make something like the pictures in the book look good. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. I mean, it's important. You know what I mean? That book, the photography that goes in that book is going to have to be, it's going to have to be great, because you have to be able to the passion words that you're going to throw down. You have to see that in the photography. It's the other side of the art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And not only to like examples, like, cause I break down every year, every, decal, stuff like that. So obviously like samples is easy, but getting like capturing that emotion of like, what it's like being in that flow state. You know what
yeah,
I mean? When you're riding and you're out, you may be by yourself or your buddy by you. Like there's no other feeling like that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? There's nothing else that you can explain that gets you in that feeling. Like I used to surf nonstop before this, like FXR shit. I surfed every day, whether there was waves or not. Like whether it was shitty, super, wind blowing 30 miles an hour onshore. Like I was out in the water, and because that's how my mind works. Like
yeah,
whatever it is that I'm into
yeah.
all in.
100%.
And so the to capture that feeling and that emotion is like, I find it like that's difficult. The emotion, the feeling of riding 80 miles an hour and it's hot as fuck, your sweat dripping down in your helmet,
Yeah,
and you look over at your buddy and you know that he's in the same boat and you guys got a place to be or whatever, and you signed up for this, you got on the bike and you knew it was going to be 113 degrees on Highway 5 or whatever.
yeah,
Like you signed up for it, but there's absolutely a feeling of like, hey, we're in this together.
mm-hmm.
Like, and whether it's you by yourself, you're in this together with your bike, right?
Yeah.
You're in this together with yourself even.
Well, you
know
can
what I mean?
you can pretty, not, I wouldn't say simply, but to me it's easier if you're good with words to be able to share that feeling and emotion and passion through words in like some kind of write up, versus to get the camera angle that you're seeing while you're peeking over and looking at your homie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or you're
totally.
imagining yourself look like you'd have to have like this like drone that flies around and captures these angles for you to really capture that emotion in a photograph type setting. And like that's something that I want to be good at. Like I feel like, just like you just described, when you're riding and you're experiencing this shit, I know that there's a picture there somewhere, somehow, and I want to learn how to capture that. And that's why I've been diving deep into photography, and maybe diving deeper financially than effortly. And that's kind of why I've been making some changes in my own thing. So one of the hard things about photography, and I think I've already said this, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but like it's hard to, when in my shoes, where realistically the photos need to be of the work of, I guess, me and my bikes and what I'm doing in a sense.
Right.
I don't really have the luxury of having a bunch of friends that are photographers, but I love photography. And I just finally decided, like, fuck it. I know how great it feels to get cool shots of myself. I want to do that for everybody else now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my Instagram page for the Fast Life podcast, I've been wanting to get rid of that forever because I don't like having all these different places. So I'm going to turn that page into literally just pictures that I physically take of shit in the world having to do with the motorcycles or whatever the case may be, in some form or fashion, just to kind of, it might not go anywhere, and that's fine. Like I'm not trying to make money taking pictures. I just want, maybe one day someone will be like, man, Jay shot this of me. You know what I mean? And it'll mean something to them. And to me, that's payment enough.
Yeah. And I mean, dude, so for the longest time, like I never had photos of me riding or even on a bike. You know what I mean? Like I was on the bike, but I didn't have photos of me. And, up until recently where I'm like going to rides and like people are shooting or whatever, like pictures of my bike or me on my bike. Like one of them, I think it's your boy, Mason.
Mason. Yeah.
Yeah. So he took a picture of me on Mike's bike.
Yeah.
And that feeling, like that emotion of there, because like dude, we rode all the way down, right? Straight shot. We stopped for breakfast or for lunch at that German place. Have you
Yeah.
been to that German spot?
Uh,
And I don't know the name, but
Mike's always talking about it, but we always go to that Blue Bonnet Cafe when we go down there.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we stopped at that German spot, but other than that, it was all the way through, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, getting there and seeing, number one, familiar faces. Joe was there. Josh was there.
That was a
His
solid
wife.
year, dude. That last year, Giddy was a solid year. Fucking dudes at our campsite. Oliver.
Like pulling up on Mike's bike, number one, because people are looking at me like, "Fuck, that thing's sick," right? It's an
Yeah.
RP, like done correctly.
Yeah.
Pulling up and having seen like familiar faces in Texas, where I've never been to Texas, like seeing familiar faces, and then having that picture capture that, where like literally I pull up, I still have my hand on the clutch,
Yeah.
and I'm saying what's up to Joe with my right hand, right? Like that right there is like, and I think I even told him this. I'm like, dude, that's an awesome photo. Like for me, like that touches me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, I agree.
the whole feeling of like at the end of a ride or even during the ride, like that moment when you're in that flow state and you look over and you see like this beautiful scenic background and your shadow, your silhouette
Yeah.
of you on your bike on the ground in that same like visual is just, I don't know, it's magic to me, dude.
You brought up Mason, man. Mason actually rode with us to Cali when I rode my FXR out there.
Yeah.
And I've got like a handful of really just amazing shots he got of all of us in a more of a candid type fashion. And, dude, I cherish them, man. Like, I actually want to get some of them printed out here. I've been wanting to reach out to him and get him to send me some originals so I can get it printed right. But yeah, dude, it means a lot, man, to get photos done. And that's why, like, I've kind of touched on this before, but like with us all having these phones, especially the iPhone users, we're able to just quickly take 100 photos and it becomes like, oh, that's a good one, I'll post it. It never really means the same,
Right.
Or it might mean something to some people. I don't want to speak for the world, but does it mean something the same? Are you,
I don't know how many people have seen that picture that I'm talking about, that Mason shot, but like for me, that means one of that's one of the coolest photos that I've ever had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, it's definitely, like you said, man, branching out of your comfort zone. If you want to take pictures, I say just do it, man. Like, I don't know how. I've never wrote a book.
Yeah.
I doing all the research, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna write a book, and I'm doing all the work. I've done all the, the research. I've done all the writing. I think right now I'm on page 90, and there's 0 photos in it.
Yeah.
So it's all factual information. You know what I mean? Factual information, interviews. Like, I don't know if, I know people know that I run the FXR Bazaar, but I would say that I'm like an FXR-ologist at this point, dude. Like straight researching, analyzing, like, I don't know. It's fun to me, man. That's something that definitely like touches my soul that like nothing else has,
Yeah, I get it, man. Did you ever post that picture on your personal page?
I don't think so,
I don't
man.
think you did. No, I don't see it. No, I mean, I get it, man. It's we need, if everybody would chase their passion like you're doing it, we would all have cool shit.
Yep.
It takes a lot of time to do what you're doing. So, man, kudos to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, the book's going to be fucking awesome, dude. I'm so fired up. It's going to be a limited run for multiple reasons. But at the same time, like I expected, the nerds actually to jump on it. You know what I mean? I don't need everyone knowing about it. I don't need everyone, I don't need it to be a Barnes & Noble bestseller or actual, it's, I'm having a publisher do it myself, which I've never done that before either, like have a graphic designer and learning all that. But it's definitely for the community, just because like I said, it hasn't been told.
Yeah.
And there's nutty stuff, a lot of details, And yeah, I'm fired up about it for sure.
Cool. Well, hey, man, we're at 3 hours and 18 minutes. So,
Oh, shit.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you, dude.
Oh,
Like
appreciate it, man.
seriously, your podcast, like I said, I nerd out on motorcycles constantly,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes into this stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that, man.
I listen to the podcast on my way to work, and then if it's interesting enough, I listen at work. And so I really appreciate all the work that you do, and I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. And
Yeah. I mean, dude, I wholeheartedly really appreciate it. It's selfish of me, but this is easy. I get to do a really fun thing to do, speak to all these people and absorb stories and knowledge. And if I could just get better at remembering them all the time and having them
totally.
like ready to throw out there, I'd be really good at this. But
Right.
I appreciate the support, man. Since day one, you guys have been, the FXR community as a whole has always seemed to really support this podcast. And I love all those dudes, man. All of them, coast to coast. Harry, Gerardo, you, Jessup, Mike, Dusty. I don't really know Dusty that well, but I hear his name all the time, and I've partied with him around a campfire, so we're boys.
He's got beautiful eyes, dude.
Oh,
if you ever next time you see him, just look at his eyes, dude. They're beautiful.
So that's what goes on in the FXR scene.
That's right, dude. In the DMs, dude.
Hell yeah.
But no, we really appreciate you, and the FXR community, keep going strong, man. Keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, keep on FXRs. And I want to see that lowrider done up, man.
Yeah,
Or
one day.
or if you decide selling it, I want to see you on an FXR D-rake, dude.
I definitely, I think the D-rake's going to be the one that gets done and gets to be the keeper because, yeah, that would be a special one to work with friends, and it'd be my birth year, and it'd be something that, I don't think everybody in the world's going to want to buy off me, so I'll be able to keep it without having the feeling of needing to sell it or passing up good money here and there. So,
Dude. Well, cool. I'll send you a decal when it's ready.
Cool. All right, buddy. Thanks, Nick.
All right. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Bye.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Great time talking to you, sir. Thank you, Nick, for setting some time aside for me. This is going to be the last podcast for this month, guys. We're going to be coming back in May strong as ever, bringing you more stuff. I want to thank all of you guys for supporting this podcast through these COVID times. And you Patreon supporters, don't think I haven't forgot about you. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. It's a full-time job for sure. But I want to thank you guys for supporting this. And if you want to, any of you guys out there want to try to support us a little bit on the financial side, you can go check our Patreon, which is on our website, fastlifegarage.com. Front page, there's a link. Sign up. We started rolling pretty good with some giveaways, and then this shit happened, and now a lot of sponsors are kind of, just trying to see how things are going. And, we're trying to stay ahead, and we're trying to make things happen and get some cool shit out there to give away to you guys. But for the most part, we're giving you 6 to 8 podcasts a month. So, help, that money helps support that progress. So check it out. Thank you guys for doing what you do. If you want to check out our sponsors, Dream Rides John on Instagram and teamdreamrides.com, Paint Huffer Metal Flake on Instagram, painthuffer.com, FastLife13 for 10% off, Thundermax EFI on Instagram and shopteammax.com, Lexan Moto on Instagram and lexan-moto.com, Fast Life for 15% off your entire order. Check them out, guys. Thank you for supporting us and them and everybody in between. And we'll see you back in about a week with something else. You guys have a good rest of this month. Peace.